Marvel, God level eating. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 101: The Terrifying Explosion from Quantum Space. For a year, Johnny has been immersed in the perception and improvement of space. He spent 500 points of the 1,500 devouring points obtained by devouring Apocalypse to improve his physique. There are still 1,050 devouring points on the attribute panel. Johnny does not intend to keep the remaining devouring points, and is ready to use them all to improve his own spatial ability. After mastering the truth that the essence of space is not what the naked eye sees, Johnny has spent most of this year thinking about space teleportation. Before, Johnny saw through the essence of space, and with familiarity, he was able to easily and casually shuttle short distances. This way of moving is far superior to the speed he had mastered before. However, short-distance shuttle can be used in battle, but it is slightly insufficient to cross endless space and cross interstellar. For this reason, Johnny has worked hard on space teleportation and gradually realized the essence of space teleportation. If you want to cross the distance between distant stars through space teleportation, it is no longer feasible to shuttle between conventional spaces. The only way is to enter the different space, which is named by Johnny himself. The reason why it is called the alien space is that this space is not the normal space of the universe, but another strange space-time parallel to the universe. In the alien space, there are a lot of space turbulence. Even if Johnny has a strong physique, he dare not withstand the impact of space turbulence without the protection of space power. The biggest peculiarity of the alien space is that in addition to the chaotic space turbulence, there are also a large number of space-time nodes. These space-time nodes are the 2 points connecting the normal space. As long as you find this point, Johnny can reach any destination you want to go in an instant after entering the alien space with his space ability. The two connected space-time nodes connect the two places that are extremely far apart in the normal universe, and Johnny understands that the real world is actually distorted. As long as you find the correct space-time node, you can complete the space transmission system. Allocate 500 devouring points to upgrade the space transmission. Johnny was not stingy with space transmission. He directly allocated half of the remaining devouring points, all of which were used to strengthen the transmission ability, and upgraded the space transmission from LV1 to LV6. After the space teleportation ability was upgraded to level 6, Johnny already felt that this skill was about to reach the limit of his current control. If it were not for the limitation of physical strength and lack of control, Johnny would even continue to improve the space teleportation. Imagine using the space teleportation ability to cross in 1 step. 1 second, you were still on the Earth, and the next second, you had crossed countless galaxies and went to Sikar. How free and easy is this feeling of not being restricted by space? In addition, Johnny used all the remaining 500 devouring points to improve the space confinement, and also upgraded the space confinement to level 6. This is the only space ability that Johnny has comprehended so far that plays a decisive role in the battle. As for the space tearing that Johnny used when facing Apocalypse, this ability is difficult for Johnny to use on his own when he is out of the cosmic cube. In order to tear open the space of the Marvel Universe and maintain arbitrary control, the energy consumed and the control of space are too demanding. After upgrading the space confinement to level 6, Johnny's remaining devouring points were consumed. The huge improvement in his space ability made his strength rise again. If he faced Apocalypse now, Johnny had enough confidence. With the space shuttle and the space confinement reaching level 6, he could kill the opponent instantly before Apocalypse could react. I don't know how many interesting changes have taken place in the outside world since I was in seclusion for so long. After being fully familiar with the surge in strength, Johnny sighed slightly. The process of chasing power is destined to be lonely. It's time to go out and enjoy life. After a short trance, Johnny smiled slightly, and the huge momentum on his body slowly converged. He was about to teleport away from the empty space where he had been in seclusion for nearly 2 years. However, Just before Johnny was about to launch the teleportation, a strong energy explosion was generated somewhere on the Earth, and a kind of energy that made the space fluctuate rapidly leaked out, which was instantly sensed by Johnny. With a frown on his brows, space fluctuations appeared on Johnny's body, and then he took a step forward and the whole person disappeared in the empty space. At this moment, somewhere in Argentina, far away on the other side of the Earth, in a research base secretly established by S.H.I.E.L.D., an explosion caused by a huge leakage of quantum space energy is surging and swallowing everything in the explosion area. Perhaps, even S.H.I.E.L.D. had not thought in advance that the quantum technology studied by Goliath's plan would have such terrible consequences. It was restarted by Dr. Elias Starr, a former colleague of Hank Pym. However, in the rush for quick success, they did penetrate the quantum space they had been exploring, but they had no way to control the tremendous power that surged from the quantum space. The vibration caused by the explosion was felt by almost half of Argentina. Some strange fluctuations reverberated from the Earth in an unpredictable trajectory and spread to the entire universe. The space spread like water waves, and the next moment, Johnny's figure emerged out of thin air. However, the position where Johnny appeared was just under the impact of the chaotic energy turbulence in the quantum space, but in an instant, the huge energy covered Johnny's body. Feeling the impact of the strange energy on his body, Johnny was slightly stunned, and his absorption and transformation ability was instantly activated. The vast and chaotic energy escaped and rushed towards Johnny's body, but Johnny's body seemed to have turned into a bottomless pit. No matter how much energy impact he had, it could not have any effect on him. He was completely swallowed up. What a strange energy. It makes me feel that the world is infinitely shrunk and enlarged. Using the absorption and transformation ability, Johnny was safe and sound in the surging energy impact, and he continued to perceive this chaotic energy, with a bit of interest on his face. The terrifying energy turbulence that rushed out of the quantum space did not last too long. After the instruments that connected the quantum space and the real world were completely torn apart by the turbulence, the escape of this energy also stopped. Johnny's body stopped steadily in the air, overlooking a large area of buildings that had been destroyed, and looked beyond recognition, and frowned. This area of buildings looked like an industrial park, slightly old, and was completely turned into ruins after being ravaged by this sudden energy explosion. In Johnny's perception, there was no breath of life. Obviously, it was difficult for ordinary people to survive under such terrible energy. Chapter 102. I didn't expect to encounter such a thing just after coming out. I don't know what kind of research can trigger such a strange energy. It's a pity that it's out of control. With a sigh, Johnny slowly withdrew his perception. His figure moved here and disappeared in the space. There are not many valuable things here. Johnny is unwilling to stay and returns to the company directly. I believe that with the intelligence ability of the Hellfire Club, there will be specific news soon. With the ability to control space transmission, Johnny has no problem traveling between Argentina and New York. Soon, after receiving the news sent by Johnny, Medusa and others all gathered together and looked at Johnny with joy. Mr. Johnny, you give me a very strange feeling. If I hadn't seen you standing in front of me, I wouldn't even be able to sense your breath at all. Among the crowd, Charles was the most shocked. He is good at spiritual power and has a very keen perception of the surroundings, but now Johnny is completely blank in his perception, or in other words, nothingness. Everyone has the same feeling. Although they are not as sharp as Charles, Johnny in front of them does have an unfathomable aura. Johnny smiled slightly, and his aura changed slightly, shielding himself from the space. In the eyes of everyone's surprise, he became real. It's amazing. Everyone couldn't help but marvel at Johnny's changes. Natasha, there was a terrible explosion in Argentina just now. Arrange someone to investigate as soon as possible. After a few simple polite words, Johnny said to Natasha. Johnny, who had just finished his retreat, was preparing to enjoy his life. Now he happened to encounter a huge leak of energy in the quantum space, so he naturally would not ignore it. Well, there will be news soon. Natasha nodded, and then passed the news through the special communication device in her hand. In a moment, with the increasingly perfect intelligence network of the Hellfire Club, I believe that relevant intelligence will be received soon. Chairman, the company has developed very well in the past 2 years and has achieved many results. Do you want to take a look? Medusa smiled and seemed very confident. During the time when Johnny was in retreat, the company had indeed undergone earth-shaking changes. When talking about the development of the company, everyone had a smile on their faces. It was obvious that during the time when Johnny was away, the company had indeed made great progress and made great progress. Looking at your expressions, I really want to take a look. Relax, I'll take you there. Johnny smiled slightly, and the space energy surged, enveloping everyone. With a thought, he led everyone to Morgan Biotechnology, just as Johnny led everyone to the company to learn about the company's achievements in the past 2 years. A powerful civilization in a distant galaxy at an endless distance from the Earth sensed the huge quantum space energy leaking from the Earth. This powerful alien force is known as one of the 3 major alien empires in the galaxy, called the Kree Empire. The Kree Empire rose in countless years of development and became a dominant existence in the vast galaxy. Their research on quantum technology far exceeded that of the Earth, and they were even able to teleport through quantum space. At this point in time, the Kree Empire and another force in the 3 major alien empires in the galaxy, the Skrull Empire, were in a full-scale war. The abnormal fluctuations in quantum space attracted the Kree Empire's great attention. Sir, after our detection, a node in the quantum space has a brief connection with the real world. I don't know if someone has opened the quantum space channel. The specific situation needs to be found through the quantum space to find the node location before we can make a judgment. In the vast territory of the Kree Empire in the large Magellanic Cloud, there is an extremely large warship floating in the dark and deep starry sky. On the warship, a Kree Empire warrior kneels respectfully on the ground and speaks to the unclear shadow. The abnormal fluctuations in the quantum space. It is very likely that the despicable Skrull bastards want to use their talents to use the quantum space to infiltrate the Empire. Arrange people to investigate clearly. If you find that there are Skrull spies entering, you should know what to do. After a while, a low voice slowly sounded in the unclear shadow, and a burly figure walked out of the shadow and stood in front of the Kree warrior, who knelt respectfully. If Johnny was here, he would definitely be able to recognize the identity of the person who spoke instantly. It was the villain in the plot of Guardians of the Galaxy, the Kree executioner Ronan the Accuser. Marvel should be on the battleship. Let him take 2 intermediate fighters with him to enter the quantum space, find the node where the abnormal fluctuations occur, figure out what happened, and give me a satisfactory answer. Ronan's face was calm, but the fierce look flashing in his eyes from time to time made the Kree warriors kneeling on the ground dare not look at him at all. They responded and left quickly. Soon, a huge energy fluctuation came from somewhere in the core area of Ronan's huge battleship, which was somewhat similar to the huge quantum space energy leaked from the Earth. But this process was extremely short and disappeared completely. Marvel, an extremely outstanding warrior of the Kree Empire, has taken 2 Kree warriors on a special battleship that can enter the quantum space, enter the quantum world, and headed towards the node where the abnormal fluctuations were detected. The Kree Empire, which has mastered powerful quantum technology, is like a fish in water in the quantum space. Marvel, who is driving a battleship, and 2 Kree warriors, did not spend much time to reach the node where the abnormality occurred. Captain, this node is where the anomaly occurred. According to the data detected by the warship, the quantum space energy here should have leaked a lot, but it doesn't seem to be transmitted using quantum space. A Kree warrior who followed Marvel fed back the data detected by the warship and soon got the general situation. Hearing the report from his subordinates, Marvel also frowned. Originally, when he received the order, he was still nervous, wondering if the Skrulls had mastered the technology to enter the quantum space and wanted to use the quantum space to harm the Kree Empire, but now it seems that it is not the case. Turn on the node. I need to go out through the quantum space to confirm. No matter what happened, a reasonable explanation is needed. Although the anomaly here does not seem to be an invasion by the Skrulls, Marvel did not completely relax his vigilance. He planned to leave the quantum space through the node and confirm it again in the real world. However, What Marvel did not expect was that things would become complicated after he drove the warship out of the quantum space. Chapter 103 Aliens. Marvel, who came to the abnormal node through quantum space to investigate, did not know that the disorder and abnormality of quantum space was not caused by the invasion of Skrull spies, but by the research errors of quantum space on a distant civilization on Earth in the galaxy. At this time, the node where the quantum space was abnormal, that is, the location where the huge explosion occurred in Argentina on Earth, had been urgently handled after the incident, and all the people who died in the accident had been transported away. When the local search and rescue team arrived, the explosion had ended. Everyone originally thought that no one could survive such a terrible disaster. However, when the search and rescue team entered the core area of the explosion, they saw a confused little girl among the ruins and corpses everywhere. The little girl was named Ava. She was the biological daughter of Dr. Starr, the scientist who caused the incident. At the time of the accident, Dr. Starr's wife and daughter were in the research base. Only Ava survived. When the search and rescue team wanted to take Ava away, they were surprised to find that they could not touch Ava's body at all. Ava was like a ghost with only a shadow, and the palm would directly penetrate through Ava's body. Ava's special situation was soon known to S.H.I.E.L.D., and she was subsequently secretly taken away by someone sent by S.H.I.E.L.D. In order to prevent Ava's situation from being leaked, all the personnel involved in the search and rescue were ordered to keep silent, and the search and rescue work was stopped. The personnel involved in the search and rescue were ordered to evacuate the accident area. Then, S.H.I.E.L.D. mobilized the Air Force to impose martial law on the entire area of radiation from the accident. Shortly after the entire area was under martial law, a large number of quantum space fluctuations occurred in the center of the explosion, and the space node was opened again, and a strange-shaped spaceship suddenly appeared. The spaceship that rushed out of the quantum space node, like a magic trick, rapidly expanded from being difficult to see with the naked eye, and in an instant it became normal size, with a loud bang, knocking down many broken buildings in the ruins. This time, the sudden quantum space fluctuations were much lighter than the previous huge leakage of quantum space energy. This kind of fluctuation, if not separated by a long time, is almost imperceptible to ordinary people. Of course, except for Johnny, who was at Morgan Biotechnology. With his keen perception of space, Johnny noticed the first time the familiar quantum space energy fluctuations were born. "Chairman, what's wrong?" Just as she was about to take Johnny to the company's research center to inspect the results of the past 2 years, she was slightly stunned when she saw the strange color on Johnny's face, and asked in confusion, "You just wait here for me, I'll leave for a while." Sensing the strange fluctuations in space again, Johnny was puzzled and said something to everyone, and then disappeared directly in a wave of space fluctuations. This is actually a planet with life. After leaving the quantum space, the crewman Marvel controlled the spacecraft to slowly stop in the ruins. The matter was somewhat beyond his expectations. "Who are you?" Before Marvel and others could react, a nervous low shout attracted his attention. Outside the ruins, there was a plane parked, and a female pilot was holding a weapon in her hand, looking at the three of them nervously. The female pilot was named Carol Danvers. She was an Air Force sent by the military to carry out a flight mission at the accident site. She happened to run into Marvel, who appeared from the quantum space node. Carol saw that on the strange flying vehicle that suddenly appeared, except for Marvel, who looked similar to humans, the other two crew warriors were completely foreign objects. With vigilance in her heart, she slowly approached the three people. "Captain, we have confirmed our location. We are on a planet called Earth on the edge of the solar system. The civilization here is still at a low level. Now we have been discovered. Do you want to kill this woman?" A Kree warrior next to Marvel saw that his tracks were exposed and asked Marvel in a low voice, "No, this is someone else's planet. We are the invaders." Marvel stopped his men and smiled at the nervous Carol. "Don't be nervous. We have no ill intentions. We just came to your planet by accident." Feeling the other party's nervousness, Marvel smiled slightly, completely relaxed, and said to Carol, "So, you are all aliens?" Carol did not relax at all, but asked cautiously, "From your point of view, we are indeed aliens. My name is Marvel, and I come from the Kree Empire far away from Earth. Mar-Vel's smile did not change, but he began to introduce himself. In fact, as one of the most powerful warriors of the Kree, the weapon in Carol's hand could hardly pose any threat to Mar-Vel. He could easily subdue Carol and then leave. However, after seeing Carol, Mar-Vel did not feel the hostility of the other party, but was more willing to talk. After hearing Mar-Vel's words, Carol slowly relaxed. Out of curiosity about the aliens, Carol began to chat with Mar-Vel. Mar-Vel also had a good impression of Carol, a human girl. During the conversation, Mar-Vel told Carol a lot of things about the Kree Empire, including the fierce war between the Kree and the Skrulls. During the conversation, Carol and Mar-Vel did not notice that the two Kree warriors who followed Mar-Vel had a fierce and sinister look in their eyes when they exchanged glances. Interesting. The first generation of Captain Marvel, and the second generation of Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers, actually met under such circumstances. I wonder what interesting things will happen next. No one noticed that somewhere above them, Johnny's figure was suspended in the air, and he saw everything that happened before. After gaining a certain degree of control over space, it was very easy for Johnny to arbitrarily distort the propagation of light in space and create the illusion of complete invisibility. After recognizing the identities of Marvel and Carol, Johnny understood that this might be an opportunity for the ordinary Carol to eventually become the powerful Captain Marvel. These two Kree people who followed Marvel seem to have bad intentions, and I don't know what they want to do. Johnny's perception was sharp. Not only did he keep an eye on the conversation between Marvel and Carol, but the two Kree warriors who followed Marvel were also within Johnny's perception coverage. The two Kree warriors who appeared with Marvel looked at the fierce light flashing in the eyes of Marvel and Carol, and they did not escape Johnny's observation. Because these two people came with Marvel, Johnny subjectively thought that the target of these two people might be Carol. After discovering the abnormality of these two Kree people, Johnny became even more interested. He patiently hid aside and waited quietly. Mar-Vel, thank you. When I was a child, I liked to look up at the starry sky and fantasized about meeting aliens one day. Today you have fulfilled my childhood wish. After a conversation, Marvel was about to leave, and Carol was also very excited. After learning about alien civilizations and the 1,000-year war between the Kree and the Skrulls, she realized the insignificance of human beings on Earth. Carol, I'm leaving. Although the probability of what happened today being known by the Skrulls is very small, please help me keep it a secret. Marvel said to Carol, don't worry, I won't tell anyone. Marvel, you be careful. Carol was about to say goodbye to Marvel, and suddenly saw two energy shocks from the weapons in the hands of the two Kree warriors behind Marvel. In a hurry, Carol subconsciously reached out and pushed Marvel away. Boom. Chapter 104. Threaten me on my own turf? A violent energy explosion suddenly erupted between Marvel and Carol. With an ordinary body like Carol, she could not even make a sound before being blown away by the explosion and fell heavily to the ground. Marvel also did not expect that someone would attack him under such circumstances, and was also blown away by the powerful driving force of the explosion. The two energy explosions were not particularly powerful, but the energy in them had a special power that had a strong inhibitory effect on the Kree, making him feel weak for a while. Carol, Marvel exclaimed after reacting, looking at his two men behind him in disbelief. Lieutenant Marvel, I'm so sorry. I didn't expect this Earth woman to sacrifice her life for you, but today, you will all die. The two Kree warriors who launched the attack had a sinister smile on their faces and slowly approached Marvel. Why did you betray me? Looking at the two, Mar-Vel was shocked. He couldn't believe that he would be attacked by his own people, although he tried his best to support his body and stand up. The special energy that attacked him just now paralyzed Mar-Vel's body and all his abilities could not be used. Betrayal? You are really naive, Lieutenant Mar-Vel. I'm afraid you have forgotten the ugly history of the huge Kree Empire. Perhaps, you will know who we are after seeing it clearly. As Mar-Vel's two men slowly approached, their appearance kept changing, and they became completely different people. If it is said that Mar-Vel's two men, except for the different skin color from humans, there was not much difference, then now, after the two revealed their true forms, They have completely left the category of humans. You are actually Skrull abnormals. Seeing the appearance of the two people constantly changing, Marvel didn't understand that the two were not Kree people at all, but Skrulls who had a feud with the Kree. Marvel, you are considered a strong man in the Kree Empire. You have posed a huge threat to us Skrulls. The Empire has wanted to get rid of you for a long time. Do you understand now? You can die in peace. The Skrull, after changing his appearance, spoke coldly with a cruel smile on his face. As the abnormal people among the Skrulls, they have the talent to change their appearance at will and disguise themselves as any race. It is for this reason that the two of them successfully sneaked into the Kree and waited for an opportunity to act. Don't try to struggle, Commander Marvel. Your ability is so powerful. How could we not be prepared before we act? The energy shock just now was developed specifically for the body structure of the Kree. All your abilities are now completely suppressed. Just accept your fate. A ferocious smile climbed onto the Skrull's face, and the two slowly approached Marvel, not in a hurry to act. Seeing the anger and unwillingness on Marvel's face, the two Skrull abnormal people seemed very excited. I don't care about the feud between the Skrulls and the Kree, but you guys wantonly attacked my compatriots on Earth, so you should give me an explanation. Just as the two Skrull deviant were approaching Marvel, a quiet voice slowly sounded, which made several people stunned. Who is it? Hearing this strange voice, the two Skrull deviant were shocked, and they stopped immediately, raised their weapons, and aimed at the source of the voice. There was a figure standing in the empty place just now, and the person who spoke was none other than Johnny. Johnny, who had watched the whole show from beginning to end, finally showed up at this time, facing the two somewhat nervous Skrull deviant with a calm face. An Earthling? Ha 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 ha. Although I don't know how you managed to hide aside and only show up now, I can tell you that if you dare to interfere in our Skrull affairs, there is only one result. After seeing Johnny's appearance clearly, the two Skrull deviant obviously relaxed, and one of them threatened with disdain. Oh, really? Johnny was too lazy to explain that the other party had mistakenly thought that he had been hiding. With a wave of his hand, a terrifying flame with a high temperature shot out from his hand and instantly landed on the Skrull deviant who had just threatened him. Boom! When it touched the deviant's body, the fireball suddenly exploded, and the blazing flames instantly devoured his body completely, shrouding it in raging flames. The terrifying temperature released. The deviant had no ability to resist at all. Although the deviant's body was much stronger than that of an ordinary Skrull, it was still in agony under such a burning flame. With a scream, he fell to the ground and rolled madly. However, the flames launched by Johnny were not only extremely hot, but also had a terrifying adhesion force. Once it touched the body, it was not easy to extinguish it. The deviant who was on fire could only roll in pain. Your skin is quite thick. Seeing that the fire attack he launched did not turn the opponent into ashes immediately, Johnny raised his eyebrows slightly, and was slightly surprised. Quick! Another abnormal screamed in the terrifying heat, but seeing the miserable state of his companion, he was afraid. Under the scorching heat, he did not dare to step forward to rescue. He could only watch his companion's struggle become weaker and weaker, and die in pain. Just now he said what the consequences would be if I intervened. I didn't hear it clearly. Can you tell me again? Johnny's light voice sounded, and his eyes looked at the only abnormal left with the playful look. At this time, facing Johnny's playful smile, the abnormal was shocked. After seeing Johnny's terrifying arrogance, his fierce arrogance was restrained a lot. Earthling, I advise you to think clearly before you take action. Although you are stronger than us, if you intervene in the affairs between the Skrulls and the Kree, the wrath of the Empire will be unbearable for you, not to mention your backward life planet. Not as strong as Johnny, the abnormal could only move the Skrull behind him. Seeing the other party's cautious look, Johnny smiled slightly. When the other party threatened him, the ending was already doomed. As for the Skrulls, or the Kree, is it possible to threaten him and make him afraid? Facing the fearful Skrull deviants, Johnny smiled slightly. Puff! The sound of the sharp blade piercing into flesh and blood rang out, accompanied by the deviant's unbelievable screams, and the light in his eyes gradually faded. The figure of the undead ghost had appeared behind the only remaining deviant at some point, and a clean and neat blow directly penetrated the deviant's back, shattering his heart. "Threatening me on my own territory, I really can't think of any reason to spare your life." Before the deviant's consciousness fell into the abyss of darkness, only a calm voice was heard. Chapter 105 3 Alien Empires. After dealing with the two Root Skrull deviant, Johnny did not stop the ghost and gave the bodies of the two deviant to the ghost to devour. Lieutenant Marvel of the Kree Empire. After dealing with the two deviant, Johnny's eyes fell on Marvel, whose body was still paralyzed and whose mobility had not yet fully recovered. After seeing Johnny's powerful attack ability, Marvel couldn't help but feel a little daunted when facing Johnny. "Yes, thank you for saving me." Although Marvel was a little daunted by Johnny, it was an indisputable fact that Johnny dealt with two Skrull spies who wanted to kill him and saved his life. Marvel was still very grateful. "As far as I know, the Kree Empire is one of the three major alien empires in the galaxy. Can you tell me why you and these two Skrulls appeared on Earth?" "You'd better think clearly before answering. I don't have much patience for the Kree either." Johnny stared at Marvel, and there was not much emotional fluctuation in his gratitude. As a time traveler, Johnny is very familiar with the history of the Kree Empire. The Kree used to be a weak and ordinary life race on an ordinary life planet. However, the Kree planet was favored by the Skrulls, who were ready to spread their civilization in the Kree. Unlike the brutal plundering of the Kree, the Skrulls' way of expansion is gentler, similar to the subtle infiltration colonization. However, on the Kree's home planet, Hela, there are the Kree and another race. In order to determine who will become the ruler, the Skrulls let the two races on Hela be tested on a desolate planet. In the end, the Kree did not pass the Skrulls' test, and the Skrulls chose another race on Hela. The Kree was furious when they learned about it, and they wiped out the race chosen by the Skrulls overnight. When the Skrulls came to Hela to prepare for colonization, the Kree raided them. At that time, the Skrulls were not very martial, and they were all wiped out on the spot. The Kree got the spacecraft and took this opportunity to start learning the Skrulls' technology. The Skrulls' home planet didn't know about this and thought that the team had crashed. Many years later, the Kree also established a huge force and finally began to attack the Skrulls, so the two sides began a protracted battle. Knowing the history of the Kree's rise, Johnny didn't have much good feelings towards the Kree and the Skrulls. "Please believe me, I have no ill will towards the Earth. Coming here was completely an accident. Our Kree Empire has mastered the technology of using quantum space for transmission, but not long ago, an abnormal fluctuation appeared at a node in the quantum space. We are worried that the Skrull spies want to sneak into the Empire, so we came here to investigate." Under Johnny's calm gaze, Marvel actually felt an unprecedented pressure, but he really had no ill will towards the Earth, so he told the truth. Marvel's words made Johnny fall into deep thought. The Skrulls' abnormal people have the ability to change into any race or person at will. This talent is indeed terrible. It can be seen from the two spies disguised as his subordinates around Marvel, so his statement is also established. Moreover, judging from Marvel's attitude towards Carol before, it does not seem like he has much plot against the Earth. In that case, I can let you go this time, but remember, whether it is the Kree Empire or the Skrulls, as long as anyone wants to attack the Earth, they must be prepared to bear my wrath. Johnny spoke calmly. His tone was not threatening at all. Marvel was stunned, looking at Johnny's deep eyes, and his heart was shocked for no reason. Although he felt that the other party seemed to be too contemptuous of the three major alien empires, in his heart, Marvel had a faint feeling that Johnny in front of him was not an arrogant person. "I can't guarantee others, but at least I will never have any intentions on the Earth. This is my guarantee to my savior." Facing Johnny, Marvel spoke, and then his eyes fell on Carol, who was lying on the ruins and breathing weakly. Thinking of what happened before, Marvel's eyes were a little complicated, and he seemed to be a little undecided. After a brief hesitation, he became firm. "Sir, Carol became like this to save me. If she can't get treatment, she may not survive. I plan to take her to Kree and let her recover," Marvel said firmly. Johnny was slightly stunned. Take Carol away? If he remembered correctly, Carol had been transformed by Kree technology and became the powerful Captain Marvel. "Okay, Johnny nodded. In his perception, Carol's breath was already very weak and was still dissipating. Obviously, the previous explosion made her continue to be in a state of decision. With the current medical methods on Earth, it was indeed very difficult to save her. Looking at Marvel, who still had not fully recovered his mobility, Johnny moved his body and appeared in front of Marvel. Seeing Johnny suddenly appear in front of him, Marvel's face changed slightly. Did the other party intend to go back on his word and want to kill him? "Don't move." Johnny's tone was full of unquestionable command, and his palm had already touched Marvel's body. In Marvel's puzzled eyes, Johnny activated his ability to absorb and transform. The abnormality of Marvel's body was mainly due to the energy explosion launched by the two Skrull abnormalities before. This energy was specifically aimed at the Kree. After entering Marvel's body, it completely suppressed all his abilities. In Johnny's hands, the energy entering Marvel's body was not a big problem at all. When it touched the palm of Marvel's hand, a devouring force was generated, which immediately attracted the invading energy that was firmly entangled in Marvel's body. Under Johnny's brutal swallowing and absorption, the energy in Marvel's body suddenly started to operate. Whether it was the invading alien energy or Marvel's own energy, they were all attracted and surged towards Johnny's palm. Feeling the flow of all the energy in his body, Marvel opened his eyes wide and was amazed at the ability Johnny showed. However, in a flash, all the invading energy in Marvel's body was devoured by Johnny, and even his own strength was absorbed a little when devouring the alien energy. However, although this made Marvel feel a little tired, at least his mobility had been fully restored. A strong momentum rose from Marvel and soon converged. "Sir, thank you very much. I wonder if I have the honor to know your name?" At this time, Marvel looked at Johnny with gratitude in his eyes. Chapter 106 Marvel's Gratitude. "My name is Johnny." Johnny nodded slightly, looking at the recovered Marvel. The huge momentum on Marvel just now made Johnny look sideways. This kind of energy fluctuation shows that Marvel's strength is definitely stronger than most people Johnny has talked about. "Sir Johnny, Carol is seriously injured and needs treatment. I plan to take her away immediately. After she is cured, I will send her back safely." After writing down Johnny's name, Marvel saluted respectfully, using the standard etiquette of the Kree. Although the posture looks a little weird, it can be seen that he respects and appreciates Johnny. Seeing Marvel take the seriously injured Carol on a special spacecraft, Johnny thought secretly in his heart, "The current Carol Danvers is Captain Marvel, one of the superheroes who will protect the Earth in the future." This time, Marvel took her away. Johnny almost didn't need to guess that something special must have happened after arriving in Kree, which made Carol from an ordinary military pilot to an amazing female powerhouse. After placing Carol in the most comfortable position on the spaceship, Marvel came to Johnny again and handed him an item. This thing looks like a pager from the 1960s and 1970s, but seeing how serious Marvel was, Johnny knew it must be something special. "Sir Johnny, this is my emergency communicator. It transmits signals through quantum space. As long as the quantum space is not blocked, you can contact me. If you need me, you can contact me through this communicator. I will do my best." Standing in front of Johnny, Marvel made a serious promise. Johnny nodded after taking the communicator from Marvel and put it into his storage space. Judging from Marvel's attitude, this Kree is a decent person, which made Johnny's understanding of Kree change a little. As Marvel started the spaceship, a special energy wave connected the space nodes of the real space and the quantum space. The spaceship started suddenly, and it shrank in an instant and then disappeared. Quantum space channel, strange way of transmission, it seems. It is necessary for the company to study it carefully. Seeing Marvel's huge spaceship disappear, Johnny thought secretly in his heart. At the same time, after experiencing this incident, Johnny felt a sense of urgency. When Johnny thought that the Marvel plot was in its early stages, there were already alien visitors on Earth. Fortunately, this time, it was an accident. The Kree and Skrulls who came to Earth were not targeting Earth. But what about next time? Standing in place, Johnny's eyes slowed down, and his breath fluctuated slightly. After a while, Johnny's eyes flashed with brilliance, and his eyes became firm. Since crossing into the Marvel world, Johnny's mentality has undergone earth-shaking changes. In this magnificent era, he must have powerful power and dominate his own destiny. If he wants to be the master of his destiny and not be at the mercy of anyone or any force, he can only keep getting stronger. Thing. Devour 2 Skrull Deviant. Gain ability. Complete simulation level 5. Convert Devour points. Gain 100 Devour points. After Johnny made up his mind, the undead ghost had completed the devouring the bodies of the 2 Skrull Deviant completely, leaving no trace. Convert Devour points. Keep them for now. Johnny made the decision without thinking. The ability of the Skrull Deviant is indeed amazing, able to transform into the appearance of any life race in the universe, and the other party cannot detect it at all. However, Johnny is not very interested in this ability to change. He only values his own strength. With a thought, Johnny let the undead ghost turn into genic energy again and dissipate. The spatial fluctuations on his body rippled slightly, and disappeared into the ruins. In the magnificent Morgan Biotech building, Johnny's figure reappeared. Chairman, what happened? Johnny left abruptly, and came back again a moment later, making everyone a little confused. I met a few outsiders, a lieutenant of the Korean 2 Skrull abnormalities. I saw a good show. Johnny smiled slightly, not intending to hide much. What? There are traces of the Kree and the Skrull on Earth? Are they planning to attack Earth? Johnny's words surprised Medusa. Among the crowd, she was the only one who came from outside the Earth and had some knowledge of the 3 powerful alien empires in the universe. Now, on Earth, an ordinary life planet on the edge of the Milky Way, there are traces of the Kree and the Skrull. This is not a good sign. Medusa knows that these 2 huge alien empires are not gentle at all when they want to expand abroad. Medusa, don't be nervous, it's just an accident, and it shouldn't be a problem now. Johnny smiled slightly, and his calm and confident aura made Medusa slowly feel relieved. Everyone, let's go and continue our previous visit plan. After chatting for a while, Johnny, under the guidance of everyone, went to the company's technology center. After years of development, Morgan Biotech is now completely different from what it used to be. Nearly 10 floors of the middle floor of the building are all used as research departments. With sufficient funds, Morgan Biotech has gotten rid of its previous operating model and is more focused on the research of some scientific research projects. Welcome, Mr. Chairman. Miss Medusa. Standing in front of the metal door of the scientific research department, a crisp synthetic electronic female voice sounded. Chairman, this is Hank's credit. The security of the research department is all given to Hank to design, research and upgrade. Hank has also entered your data into the company's computer. In the company, the chairman has the highest authority, Medusa said with a smile. Johnny nodded. After seeing the X-Fighter designed by Hank, Johnny already had a certain understanding of Hank's talent. Now it seems that this is indeed the case. Chairman, this is the outer area of the research department. In addition to some projects in cooperation with the military, we also have a small number of projects. Most of these projects are developed as profit-making projects. The truly important projects are all in the core area. Along the way, Medusa and the others kept introducing the results of various projects to Johnny. These projects involve a wide range of areas, including mechanical automation, biomedicine, signal transmission, air traffic, high-yield crops, smart housekeepers. Johnny was indeed dazzled along the way. It must be said that as the company's decision-makers, Medusa and others were very correct in choosing research projects. Johnny, who has a sense of the future, was completely relieved when he saw these studies. Among these projects, as long as any one of them achieves a major breakthrough, it represents unimaginable huge benefits. Chairman, these are just small things. The projects that the company has really spent huge resources on are here. Seeing the satisfaction on Johnny's face, Medusa smiled and opened the passage to the core area of the research department through her authority. Chapter 107, The Expanding Hatred. This area is the core area of the research department. Whether it is security measures or various arrangements, huge resources have been spent. Perhaps an inconspicuous store is worth enough to buy an apartment in New York. Chairman. When Johnny came to the research department, Hank had already received the news and was waiting. Long time no see, Hank. Johnny smiled and greeted him. Hank was still shy as always, and he was very low-key in front of everyone. Chairman, Hank's talent shocked me. Almost 90% of the research projects in the core area have Hank's participation. If it weren't for him, the development of the research department would not have been so fast, Samuel Stern said with a smile, and he seemed to respect Hank very much. After his brain mutated due to the influence of the Hulk serum, his ability improved by leaps and bounds. In the entire research center, the only one who Samuel recognized and admired was Hank. Chairman, the core area of the research department is divided into several sections. The vibranium stones sent by Wakanda, as a separate research project, occupy 1/3 of the area. Biochemistry and gamma radiation research also occupy 1/3 of the area. Bruce and I are mainly responsible for this area. The other area is for mutant gene research, but we are often in contact with it. You plan to go and see it first. Roar. Just as Samuel was excitedly introducing the research results, a dull roar came from deep in the research center. Even though there were many security doors between them, everyone could still hear it clearly. Who is yelling? Abomination? Johnny frowned slightly, and quickly reacted to this familiar roar. Being interrupted by this howl, Samuel was embarrassed and excited. Chairman, it's like this. We have been deepening and improving the research on gamma radiation combined with super soldier serum. With Bruce's serum, the process has been accelerated a lot. However, given that there are few volunteers who can conduct clinical research, we can only choose Bronski. In the past 1 or 2 years, Bronski has been trying various serums. His current combat effectiveness has increased exponentially compared to before. It's just that too much serum injection made him very manic. There are a lot of violent factors accumulated in his body that need to be released. When it comes to research related to the Hulk, although Samuel tried his best to remain calm, he didn't know that the fanaticism in his eyes had betrayed his true thoughts. Johnny took in all of this. It must be said that Samuel himself is an excellent scientist. After the mutation and the sudden increase in intelligence, his ability is even more outstanding. However, there are always pros and cons. In terms of management, Samuel is probably still a little bit behind. Johnny is already planning to optimize and adjust the research part systematically, especially the core part, separate it from the company, just like the development model of SHIELD, and establish many research bases to conduct different research. The only problem is resources. However, with Johnny's generosity, resources are not a problem at all. At that time, let Samuel run a base by himself and do whatever he wants. From Bronski's voice, I can hear that he has too much energy and needs to release it. In this case, let's go see him first. After making the decision, Johnny smiled and asked everyone to take him to the area where gamma radiation biochemical research was carried out. Along the way, everyone heard several hateful roars. Boom boom. The heavy special alloy door slowly opened. Bronski, the chairman is here. In order to prevent Bronski from messing around, Samuel opened the door to the area that blocked Bronski and shouted at him. This area is not small, and the light seems a little dim, but with Johnny's sharp eyes, he can still see it clearly. This space does not have many complicated and exquisite furnishings, but it is arranged like a training ground. The hateful Bronski's huge body does not seem crowded in it. The walls and ceilings around were all made of the same alloy as the gate, but Johnny could see that the walls, which should have been smooth and shiny, were covered with numerous densely packed tear marks. Although not deep, they were quite dense, and were obviously caused by a powerful attack such as a claw, which was shocking to see. Bronski, you have good vitality. Seeing many torn metal blocks in the training ground, Johnny said with a smile. Master. Seeing Johnny coming, Bronski's violent aura was restrained. He walked a few steps to Johnny and spoke in a muffled voice. The reminder of the disgust was far beyond that of an ordinary person, almost more than 3 meters. Standing in front of Johnny, the height of the two was completely disproportionate. The disgust stood straight, and there was no intention of bending down to look at Johnny at the same level or lower. This scene was seen by the women following Johnny, and they all had a bit of anger in their eyes, but it was not easy to vent in front of Johnny. Without many words, Johnny had guessed the psychological activities of the disgust. During his absence of 2 years, The strength of the abomination has increased again, and it has many other ideas about him as its master. Johnny is very clear that the growth of strength will lead to the expansion of ambition. Johnny sneered in his heart, but his face did not fluctuate much. Bronski, I can feel that your strength has increased, but looking at you like this, it seems that you have a little too much energy. You have made the special alloy wall into this state? Johnny asked. Master, I already have a strong power, but there is no opponent who can fight. Bruce, that waste, dare not face me at all. The abomination slowly clenched his fist, making a creaking sound, and spoke in a low voice. That's easy. I'll take you out and find a place to play with you, so that you can release your excess energy. Hearing the arrogant words of the abomination, Johnny smiled slightly. Okay. Johnny's words made Bronski excited immediately, and his ferocious mouth opened, revealing a terrifying smile. The violent momentum that had been restrained on his body surged here, and his body became a little bigger. The place here is too small. I'll take him out for a walk. I'll be back soon after he's released. Johnny turned around and said to everyone calmly. The power of space had completely enveloped him and abomination, and he disappeared in front of everyone in an instant. I'm afraid Bronski will suffer a lot. When Johnny took Bronski away, Samuel Stern showed a bitter smile on his face. Just now, when Johnny faced them, the cold smile in his eyes could be clearly seen by everyone except Abomination. It serves you right. He dared to disrespect the master. It's already considered merciful to let him suffer a little. If it were me, Samuel, you would need to find new experimental materials in the future. Medusa spoke in a cold voice, and there was a rare murderous aura in her words. After following Johnny, Medusa gradually let go of her former identity as a cold fighter and served Johnny wholeheartedly. Today, it was also because of Abomination's performance that she showed some of her past style. Chapter 108 Releasing Excess Energy. After a brief dizziness, Abomination found that the space in front of him had completely changed and appeared in a hot and empty desert. Sahara, the forbidden land of death. Bronski, there will be no one here. You can release your extra energy. Your opponent is me, Johnny said to Abomination casually with a smile on his face. After a short pause, looking at the violent fighting spirit gradually rising from Abomination, Johnny hooked his finger at Abomination. Seeing this, Abomination roared wildly, squatted slightly, and suddenly kicked, turning into a phantom, rushing towards Johnny. Under the terrible power of Abomination, a large pile of sand exploded directly, and his body appeared in front of Johnny almost instantly, and violent and deadly attacks followed one after another. However, Abomination did not notice that Johnny's eyes were full of disdain when he looked at him. Boom. In the Morgan Biotechnology Research Center. How long do you think it will take for the chairman to come back? After Johnny left with Abomination, Emma asked everyone. There are at most 3 minutes left. Based on my judgment of the chairman's strength, if the chairman doesn't come back in more than 3 minutes, Bronski will be dead. Samuel was slightly stunned and made his own judgment. After he experienced the mutation of the Hulk serum, his brain was developed to the limit, with simulation computing capabilities comparable to supercomputers, and he could make quite accurate judgments based on the existing data. Time passed by. 1 minute, 2 minutes. Bang! There was a slight explosion in the space, and two figures appeared in the empty space before. They were Johnny and Abomination who had returned. However, at this time, only one of the two was standing. Bronski's body was like a pool of mud. The sharp bone spur-like exoskeleton exposed all over his body was violently broken. His body was full of dripping green blood, and many broken bones burst out from the flesh and blood, piercing the flesh and skin, looking extremely terrifying. There were also pieces of internal organs flowing out of Abomination's mouth. Although everyone knew that Johnny would make the Abomination suffer, they did not expect that he would be beaten so badly by Johnny, almost completely destroyed. This way, he should be able to stay quiet for a while. Samuel, take me to see other projects. Oh, by the way, if Bronski can't find a suitable way to release it next time, let me know. Johnny's face was flat, without much expression. Hearing Johnny's words, the body of the Abomination lying on the ground trembled obviously, and there was extreme fear in his eyes. It was hard to imagine that the abomination, who was so ferocious just a few minutes ago, would be so scared now because of Johnny's words. For the abomination, in Johnny's view, it was just a tool. Now this tool is not working well. It will be more convenient to use after repairing it. If it is really not working well one day, it can be recycled as scrap. After speaking, Johnny ignored Bronski, who was lying on the ground and unable to move, and left first. Samuel, your estimate is still not accurate enough. He will definitely die in less than 3 minutes. Medusa glanced coldly at Bronski, who was lying on the ground, and followed Johnny to leave. Dr. Samuel, does he need to be treated like this? Emma saw the miserable abomination and was a little worried that he would not be able to hold on with such a serious injury, so she asked Samuel, who was familiar with gamma radiation research. Don't worry, he has a special physique. He has been injected with so much serum I developed. As long as he has a breath, he will be able to recover slowly. Samuel smiled bitterly, looked at Abomination with some pity, and then followed the crowd. Why offend Johnny when there are so many people to offend? This will waste a lot of funds. Looking at the slowly closing alloy door, Samuel thought silently. In the following time, Johnny briefly learned about the research center's research on vibranium and mutant X gene. Both studies have made certain progress. The 3 boxes of vibranium shipped from Wakanda have achieved certain results after the research of many outstanding scientific researchers. According to Samuel, there are roughly 2 ways to extract vibranium from vibranium raw stones. One is to use vibranium as a finished metal product for making weapons or armor. After testing by the scientific research department, after vibranium is smelted and formed, the atomic form is extremely stable, and its hardness is no worse than that of carbon-60. The other is to use the energy contained in vibranium. This discovery was also discovered by a researcher accidentally, and then an amazing breakthrough was made. However, so far, the scientific research department is still in a relatively blank stage for the extraction and application of vibranium energy. There is no relevant information about this special energy metal, and everyone can only cross the river by feeling the stones. It took Wakanda several centuries to fully develop vibranium technology. It seems that if we want to use this meteorite mine, we have to ask Wakanda for help. Johnny thought to himself. As for the research on mutant genes, although many results have been achieved, it is a very huge project involving genes. Although the company has spent huge resources on this research, it is not a problem that can be solved in a short time to fully interpret and decipher the X gene. In less than 2 years, you have been able to produce such results. I am very satisfied, but this also reflects the drawbacks, and there is still a distance from the results I want. After understanding all the projects, Johnny spoke slowly, and at the same time, he flipped his palm, and a hazy blue light shone, and the cosmic cube appeared in his palm. In the future, Morgan biology will take a brand new path, with the largest resources, the most powerful warriors and fleets. This is the cosmic cube, an infinite energy with spatial capabilities. Under Johnny's control, the cosmic cube floated up and landed on the core area of the research center, designed by Hank and blocked by layers of counters. Infinite energy source? Chairman, as far as I know, theoretically there should be no such thing. Samuel could not accept Johnny's statement. Samuel, your so-called theory is not the truth. I said that this universe is far beyond your imagination. Johnny smiled and said, the only thing missing now is a top talent in energy research. Johnny took out the cosmic cube to make the company develop faster, but at this stage, the company's scientific research department has limited talents, and he has no way to do it for a while. Chairman, speaking of talents in the energy field, I happen to have 2 candidates, but there are some troubles. When Johnny was worried, Natasha's voice made Johnny's eyes move slightly. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 109 Candidates. Natasha is mainly responsible for the intelligence network of the Hellfire Club. After years of development, The huge intelligence network has already covered the world. Whether it is the political, business, or ordinary market, the news is extremely well informed. Not long after, 2 documents were sent to the communicator in Natasha's hand. Chairman, this is also a communicator designed by Hank. It uses the main control computer of the Morgan Biotechnology building to communicate with all the networks of the company and the club. This communicator has been set with the highest authority and is reserved for the chairman. The communicator that Medusa mentioned is a beautiful and small ring, which was presented in front of Johnny. Johnny was still very satisfied with what Hank designed. After putting on the ring, Natasha just touched the ring on Johnny's fingertip slightly, and the information Johnny needed was already transmitted to the ring on Johnny's hand. Natasha took off the ring on her hand and placed it on the table. All the information in it was presented through a 3-dimensional holographic projection. In the projection, there are a lot of pictures and text content, which makes Johnny's eyes light up. Soon, Johnny's eyes changed slightly. A picture of Spider-Man was very eye-catching. He was wearing a tight black and red uniform, with a striking black spider pattern on his chest, gliding between high-rise buildings while holding a spider silk. Chairman, this is Spider-Man. While you were in seclusion, the newly born volunteer policeman in New York has done a lot of things in the past 2 years. We even judged through some clues that he might have killed the former chairman of the Osborn Group. If you need, I can call up his detailed information. Seeing Johnny's eyes fall on the picture of Spider-Man, Natasha directly told him the relevant information about Spider-Man. Johnny waved his hand slightly, indicating that it was not needed for the time being. Spider-Man, Peter Parker, an ordinary New York high school graduate, gained extraordinary abilities due to an accident during a visit to the Osborn Industrial Biological Laboratory. Natasha didn't need to explain these too much. His understanding of Spider-Man was even better than Peter Parker himself. Mad scientist turned into a monster. Bank robbery, battle with Spider-Man. Another news subtitle was what Johnny was interested in. The text on a picture recorded an accident that happened a few days ago. An energy scientist named Otto Gunther Octavius claimed to carry out an energy revolution. He used the tritium element provided by Osborn Industries to conduct nuclear fusion experiments. As a result, something went wrong. Not only did his wife die, but he himself became a monster with 4 mechanical octopus claws. Chairman, Dr. Octopus is what I call a scientist who is good at energy development and utilization, but his talent is limited by his poverty. Moreover, he has now become a dangerous criminal wanted by New York. I think we can consider another candidate, Natasha said. Natasha, don't you think he has a strong personality? What the company needs is a researcher in the field of energy, and Dr. Octopus is the kind of person who dares to do anything for his own research, Johnny said with a smile. He was familiar with Dr. Octopus's affairs. In his opinion, everything Dr. Octopus did was not a big problem. His company just happened to need such a mad scientist. By the way, who is the other candidate you mentioned? Although he was optimistic about Dr. Octopus, Johnny didn't mind taking a look at the other candidate given by Natasha. Chairman, this candidate is very interesting. I believe you will be interested. Natasha smiled mysteriously and flicked the ring on her hand. The holographic image in front of Johnny suddenly changed, and a video similar to a promotional advertisement appeared. Dreamer, genius, patriot. Since his youth, as the son of legendary weapons developer Howard Stark, he quickly gained people's attention with his extraordinary intelligence. He made a circuit board at the age of 4, made his own engine at the age of 6, and graduated from MIT at the age of 17. When Johnny saw this in the video, his smile widened. He didn't need to continue watching. He already knew who Natasha wanted to recommend. Tony Stark, the current president of Stark Industries, a playboy with countless wealth, is also one of the most outstanding scientists of the century. Johnny slowly spoke and told Natasha about his understanding of Tony Stark, which made Natasha look surprised. Chairman, you actually know him? You're right. After getting the support of the military, Stark Industries entered the consortium faster than our Morgan Biotech, and has now become the world's most powerful weapons manufacturer. When mentioning Stark Industries, even Natasha couldn't help but admire that under Tony Stark's hands, Stark Industries has indeed created a miracle. Natasha, you may not know that Tony Stark's father, Howard Stark, was once in charge of energy research and development at S.H.I.E.L.D., and the cosmic cube I got from S.H.I.E.L.D. was previously Howard Stark's research project. Johnny's words surprised everyone, and they couldn't help but sigh at the wonder of fate. These two candidates are good. Dr. Octopus has no money, no power, and is a wanted criminal. Relatively speaking, he is much easier to deal with. As for Tony Stark, when mentioning Tony Stark, Johnny frowned slightly. What everyone didn't know was that the reason Johnny frowned was not because Tony Stark was difficult to subdue, but because he valued talent. If we control Tony Stark and let him conduct energy research, Johnny believes that with Tony Stark's ability, all the energy problems of the company can be solved in a short time. But in this way, Morgan Biotech will have one more research genius, and there will be no more Iron Man on the Earth. Chairman, I will send someone to track down Dr. Octopus. As for Tony Stark, there will be a dinner party among top socialites tomorrow night. Tony Stark will also attend. You can go and meet him first. Natasha saw Johnny frowning and proposed a compromise. Okay, in this case, I have been silent for so long, and I should go out and walk around. Johnny thought so too, and it was a good time to go and see this genius who was cursed by knowledge. Okay, Chairman, I will go and prepare now. I believe that your appearance in front of the public will definitely shock many people. Natasha smiled slightly, thinking that it would be very interesting if Johnny's identity was recognized by everyone at the dinner party. Medusa, Emma, and you, come with me tomorrow night. Johnny's eyes swept over the three of them, and then he smiled and spoke. When the three girls heard that Johnny was going to take them to the dinner, they all showed surprise on their faces. Chapter 110 Depressed Tony Stark. As night slowly fell, the Raphael Hotel was filled with celebrities. All the bigwigs from the political, military and business circles were invited and came with their female companions in their best attire. Time is a magical thing. 2 years of low-key development almost made the names of Morgan Biotech and Johnny forgotten by people. On the contrary, words like Stark Industries and Osborn Industries became the topic of people's relish. Tonight, I don't know how many people came here just to get in touch with Tony Stark. Countless socialites dressed up and approached Tony Stark in the venue without any concealment, trying their best to show their charm. Oh my God, Tony, your speech just now was great. Oh, really? What did I say just now? How was it? Thought-provoking. Tony, I'm Roya. My God, what perfume are you using? I am almost intoxicated. Really? If you are willing to change places with me, I have something that will make you even more intoxicated. Wherever Tony went, he became the center of the crowd. It seemed that the whole dinner was held for him. Although this made many young rich people secretly jealous, even they had to flatter and curry favor with this hot New York celebrity. But gradually, Tony Stark, who was intoxicated by the flowers, gradually found that there were fewer and fewer people surrounding him, and even the beautiful girls around him were no longer as enthusiastic as they were at the beginning. Surprised, Tony's eyes moved with the crowd and soon saw that the people who had just surrounded him had now gathered on another focus. That was a special man, and there were 3 female companions around him. Tony's eyes immediately ignored the handsome man who was calm and composed in the face of everyone's compliments, and stayed on his 3 female companions. These 3 women, whether in figure, appearance, or very different temperament, far exceeded the circle of celebrities Tony lingered in. Among these 3 people, the tall and charming Emma, still dressed in pure white, exudes amazing charm. Natasha's explosive figure, coupled with the perfect tailoring, shows her charm to the fullest. Medusa beside Emma is noble. She has been in a high position for many years and has developed a nobleness that can only be cultivated by controlling power. Her unique cold temperament makes excellent men feel ashamed in front of her. Among the 3 women with different temperaments, Tony only has some impression of Medusa, but he has been mixed with women for many years, so he can't remember her identity for a while. Ladies and gentlemen, please listen to me. There was a little accident at today's dinner. Oh no, it's not the kind of accident you imagined. I mean, just when Tony was about to ask his personal bodyguard Happy about his identity, The host's slightly excited voice immediately attracted the attention of the whole audience. "This night is worth remembering. You are all fortunate to meet with me, our hero, Mr. Johnny, the chairman of Morgan Biotechnology, up close." With the host's powerful voice, the whole banquet fell into a boiling state. "Did I hear it right, Johnny? Isn't he the strong man who destroyed the Chiron-mutants a few years ago? The chairman of Morgan Biotechnology. I have only seen him on the news. He is here too? Where is he? I must go to see my idol." The host's words completely ignited the atmosphere of the venue, and the excited people began to search for Johnny. The people who had recognized Johnny's identity before and had already surrounded him showed proud expressions on their faces, feeling fortunate for their foresight. A beam of light moved in the venue, attracting everyone's attention. Finally, Johnny was locked by the light and appeared in everyone's sight. Without the host continuing to fan, many people had already reacted quickly and quickly gathered in front of Johnny. "Oh my God, it's really him!" The socialites who had been showing off their courtesy around Tony Stark now all reacted and left Tony Stark behind. They all followed the flow of people and swarmed towards Johnny, leaving Tony Stark a little embarrassed. Being watched by everyone, Johnny still had a faint smile on his face. The three Medusa girls surrounded Johnny and smiled in return. Seeing the three girls' eyes full of love that stayed on Johnny intentionally or unintentionally, I don't know how many people were extremely envious. "Tony, I didn't hear anything in advance. The chairman of Morgan Biotech, who hasn't shown his face in the past 2 years, is going to show up at such an event. Hurry up and get ready. Let's go over and say hello." Just when Tony Stark was secretly depressed because his limelight was stolen, Obadiah, the vice president of Stark Industries, stood beside Tony with 2 glasses of champagne and spoke excitedly. "Obi, don't be like that. It's been martial law over there. How can you let me get over there? I'm not used to being touched by passers-by." Tony, who is the focus on every occasion, was already very uncomfortable when the limelight was completely stolen by another person for the first time. Now even his uncle Obadiah asked him to go over and say hello. Tony was as uncomfortable as he could be. "Tony, don't be silly. As the chairman of the company, you should have a longer-term vision. If we can cooperate with Morgan Biotech, you will have more time to do what you like in the future, and I won't care about you." Obadiah looked at Johnny surrounded by the crowd with fiery eyes, and felt a bit disappointed with Tony, a guy who didn't live up to his expectations. "No, Obi, I won't go." Even though the conditions Obadiah said made Tony very tempted, he was too proud to run over and flatter others. Obadiah was furious, and he seemed helpless to Tony, who looked unhappy. Tony was born with a golden key. His genius made him arrogant, and it was this arrogance that made Tony ignore many things around him. For example, the ruthless and decisive look that flashed in the depths of Obadiah's eyes. As a partner of Howard Stark who worked together to build Stark Industries, Obadiah could not accept the fact that the company was handed over to Tony Stark after Howard's accident. In his heart, Obadiah could not accept it. In addition, Tony's frivolous behavior and decisions made him disappointed again and again. The resentment accumulated in Obadiah's heart has turned into a strong hatred. This hatred made Obadiah bolder, and he has decided to get rid of Tony. Chapter 111 Foreign Eyes. While Tony was depressed, the crowd that was as crowded as a market slowly moved towards his location, which surprised Tony and Obadiah. Johnny simply dealt with the crowd and had already brought the 3 Medusa girls to Tony and Obadiah's location. Johnny was annoyed by the crowd and was helpless. He had nothing to talk about with these ordinary people. Johnny released a little aura, which made the noisy crowd quiet down a lot. The celebrities present were all ordinary people. Facing the aura displayed by Johnny, they would instinctively feel great pressure. After the crowd quieted down a lot, Johnny also appeared in front of Tony and Obadiah. Sir Johnny, seeing Johnny standing in front of him, Obadiah was very excited after being surprised. At the same time, facing a legendary figure like Johnny, he was very respectful. When Johnny became famous, he, Obadiah, was just a young man. However, many years have passed and he is over 50 years old. Johnny standing in front of him is still young. as if time can't erode Johnny at all. Chairman Obadiah, if I'm not mistaken, this person should be Tony Stark, the current president of Stark Industries, right? Johnny smiled and nodded, as a response to Obadiah, and his eyes fell on Tony Stark, who was still a little unhappy, being stared at by Johnny's calm eyes. Tony Stark was nervous. Although he was a little unhappy with Johnny's behavior of stealing his limelight, Tony Stark was not a fool, because his father had been in contact with SHIELD. His understanding of Johnny was much deeper than that of ordinary people. Mr. Johnny, facing Johnny, Tony Stark smiled and spoke. Tony, I haven't paid much attention to the world in recent years, but the arc react you developed has really interested me. I have to say that you are really excellent. If there is a chance, maybe we can cooperate. Johnny examined Tony Stark for a while, and then smiled and said, appearing very easygoing. However, Johnny's tone revealed his appreciation for Tony, which was completely a recognition of the excellent juniors by the seniors. Through his perception, Tony Stark, who was standing in front of him, was weak and obviously drained by alcohol and sex. Mr. Johnny, many of Morgan Biotech's achievements are also at the leading level in the world. In many people's minds, Stark Industries probably started by making money from national disasters. It's rare that you chose Stark Industries. Tony smiled indifferently and mocked his own company. I'm afraid only Tony dared to say such words. Others could only think about it in their hearts. Johnny laughed and shook his head slightly. Although Tony Stark was arrogant, his style of doing things was quite in line with his appetite. Originally, Johnny mentioned cooperation, which made Obadiah on the side very excited. Tony's words almost made Obadiah spit out a mouthful of champagne. How could a chairman slander his own company? This is not a businessman at all. Obadiah held it in for a long time, fearing that Tony, who couldn't speak, would ruin such a good opportunity. Fortunately, Johnny didn't care and still smiled faintly. After a few simple small talk, Tony Stark showed respect to a strong man like Johnny, but he was not too restrained, which made Johnny more confident in the young man in front of him. If it were an ordinary person, he would have nodded and bowed long ago. Obadiah is the best example. Mr. Johnny, do you know? In a few days, I, the Death Merchant, will go to Afghanistan to promote my new weapons. It's such a boring life, I might as well have a big party in my villa. Hearing this, Johnny already knew that the plot of Iron Man was about to begin. Tony, have you heard of the ancient gypsy divination? Johnny asked Tony. Gypsy divination? The kind of magic with the 12 constellations and transparent crystal balls? Compared to this, the cover girl of Vanity Fair would interest me more. Tony was slightly stunned, and then laughed. As a staunch supporter of science, he would not believe in divination or anything like that. It just so happens that I know a little bit about this kind of magic. Tony, here's a suggestion. If I were you, I wouldn't go out far recently. After chatting with Tony, Johnny had a good impression of him. At least when facing him, he was not as arrogant and difficult to get along with as in the movie, so Johnny planned to remind him. In such an atmosphere, Johnny's reminder was just a joke to Tony, and he didn't take it seriously. A banquet came to an end near midnight, and many people had achieved their goals through this banquet. For example, Johnny saw that when Tony left, he was attracted by a hot reporter. It's disgusting. Johnny couldn't help but curse inwardly, but the majestic space energy on his body moved slightly, and it had already wrapped the 3 Medusa women, and in a blink of an eye, he teleported to the beach villa where he hadn't lived for a long time. It's time to do something disgusting. Amid the shy faces of the women, Johnny's laughter seemed particularly comfortable. The universe is vast. Not far from the Earth, there is a huge planet. The surface looks a little dark red. This is because the planet is filled with flames everywhere. It is burning fiercely, emitting strong high temperatures, and it lasts for a long time. This world is called the Flame World. Like the Earth, it belongs to the 9 realms. There are also living beings in it. The most powerful creature is the Fire Troll Searcher, who is revered as the king of the Fire Trolls and the ruler of this world. At a certain moment, the Flame World shook, a huge mountain range shook, and heavy rocks fell. Swish! In the darkness, 2 golden red flames lit up, completely illuminating this area. If someone saw it, they would definitely be scared. These two balls of suddenly shining fire were not other things, but the eyes of the fire troll king Searcher. The entire shaking mountain ranges Searcher's body. Feeling a strange fluctuation, Searcher woke up from his deep sleep. A trace of doubt flashed through his eyes with flames rising. Just now, he caught a strange and weak fluctuation from the distant void. This fluctuation was the same source as his power and was very pure. In addition to the eternal fire taken away by the god's domain, there is actually such a powerful energy fluctuation, Searcher murmured in a low voice, shaking a large area of space. But he sensed that kind of fluctuation and it soon disappeared. Searcher's huge body also slowly fell into stillness. The two huge flames slowly disappeared. Behind the mountain, there was a slight vibration, as if there was another behemoth lurking beside Searcher. No one could have imagined that the Flame King Searcher had sensed this fluctuation, which came from the earth where Johnny lived. The breath in the fluctuation was the artificial sun created by Dr. Octopus before. Although the awakened Flame King Searcher did not move, Searcher had already paid attention to the land of Earth. The original Flame world was countless times more prosperous and powerful than it is now, and Searcher would not have remained dormant forever. However, when the Divine Realm ruled the 9 realms, Searcher was defeated, and the most powerful eternal flame in the Flame world was taken away by Odin and placed in the underground treasury of the Divine Realm as a collection. Having lost the powerful source of power, Searcher was no longer the same as before and could only choose to remain dormant. This time, he sensed the pure energy fluctuations that could restore his strength, which awakened Searcher, and he has begun to search for it. Chapter 112, The Arrival of Searcher, the Fire Lord. 3 days later, the communicator ring on Johnny's hand vibrated, and Natasha sent a lot of messages. Chairman, the whereabouts of Dr. Octopus have been found. He obtained a large amount of tritium from Osborne Industries and secretly built and researched in an abandoned factory in the suburbs of New York. He should plan to restart his research again. Also, we arranged for members of the Hellfire Club to monitor Obadiah's whereabouts. It is not much different from your speculation. He has contacted a group of terrorists roaming around Afghanistan. There are a lot of funds and arms transactions in private, and they intend to harm Tony Stark. Seeing these 2 messages, Johnny was not much surprised. As for Tony Stark, he was just watching for the time being. What needed to be dealt with urgently was Dr. Octopus. The intelligence department that Natasha was in charge of was quite capable, and Dr. Octopus's every move was being monitored. With Dr. Octopus's whereabouts, Johnny also planned to watch a good show. Okay, Natasha, I'll go take a look at Dr. Octopus's place myself. You just need to pay more attention to the movements of Stark Industries. After giving a simple instruction, Johnny hung up the call, left his beach villa, and headed towards the abandoned factory where Dr. Octopus was going to restart his research. With Johnny's current strength, even if he didn't use space teleportation, he could reach this distance in a moment. Shuttled through the bustling streets, Johnny couldn't help but feel a little emotional. He has been on Earth for almost half a century, and has truly witnessed the rapid changes in the world in the past half-century. Walking out of the busiest neighborhood in New York, Johnny didn't stay for too long, and soon approached the location shown in Natasha's intelligence. Before he got close, Johnny's face became slightly solemn. In the abandoned factory where Dr. Octopus was going to restart his research mentioned in the intelligence, terrible energy fluctuations have risen to the sky. The intensity of this energy fluctuation was so intense that even Johnny felt a little thrilling. If such energy fluctuations got out of control, the horror would definitely be no less than a nuclear bomb explosion. At that time, the entire New York would be destroyed. I succeeded. Dr. Otto, who was in the abandoned factory, was overjoyed. Looking at the red sun in front of him, he really had some of the momentum of the sun. With the surge in energy, a solar storm slowly formed on the surface of the artificial sun. The intense energy caused the protective shield formed by the generator to bulge a little. Dr. Otto's face was solemn. Several mechanical arms flew, slowly compressing and gathering the erupting solar storm. For a while, it seemed that there was no big problem. Just when this large artificial sun was formed, a joyful roar sounded in the distant world of fire. and Searcher opened his eyes again. The fluctuations of the small sun created by Dr. Octopus last time disappeared too quickly, so he only felt it slightly. This time, Dr. Otto used a large amount of tritium, and the fluctuations were obviously many times more intense, and Searcher, who was alert, discovered it immediately. As Searcher roared, a roar of dragon sounded in the darkness. The mountains lying low on the ground moved, and their wings slowly spread out. A huge fire dragon suddenly ignited with blazing flames, reflecting every detail of its body. The powerful dragon's might spread, causing a large number of fire demons around to shout in fear and meaninglessness, and headed away. That's the feeling. Wonderful flames. As long as I can devour enough energy, I have a chance to recover to my peak. Searcher's voice was low, but there was a hint of suppressed excitement, echoing among the mountains burning with flames. Feeling the power of the artificial sun again, he quickly captured the specific location. Although the distance was far, as a Fire King who had existed for countless years, he had enough ability to open a space channel. Follow me. Searcher's body was flaming up, and he ordered the huge fire dragon that was roaring. Blazing flames gushed out, and under the terrifying energy fluctuations, Searcher uttered rhythmic syllables. A huge magic circle slowly took shape in front of him, bursting out a violent space aura, and crushed the surrounding soil and rocks one after another, with a terrifying momentum. As the magic circle was drawn, the Fire King Searcher roared. After losing the eternal flame, his power was no longer as strong as it was in his heyday, and he could only choose to lie dormant. Now he used his powerful power to break through the space barrier and forcibly descend to the Earth to obtain the power of the artificial sun. It was a gamble for him to forcibly descend to another world, risking the danger of being discovered and suppressed by the divine domain again. Go! The magic circle was completely drawn, and the space made a shattering sound like a broken mirror, but the momentum was much more terrifying, and the broken space was as huge as a mountain range. After a command, the huge wings of the fire dragon were retracted, and the figures of Searcher and the fire dragon disappeared in the world of fire in an instant. The huge space passage did not close immediately after Searcher and the fire dragon entered. A majestic roar sounded from it, and the sound echoed in the flame world like ripples. Hearing this sound, countless powerful flame creatures in the flame world were all startled. Amidst the crazy roars, they all rushed towards the huge space portal created by Searcher. After a slight hesitation, they followed Searcher's footsteps and rushed into the space portal. Johnny's figure kept approaching the abandoned factory where the energy fluctuations were becoming more and more intense, but at a certain moment, he suddenly stopped, frowned slightly, and looked up at a certain place in the clear sky. Roar! Just as Johnny was staring, he heard a loud explosion and a strange roar of beasts, and the fluctuations in the space became much clearer. At this time, the empty space where Johnny's eyes were was originally empty, but now a strange change has occurred. The space fluctuated violently like water waves, and then shattered, forming a dark deep hole, which continued to expand. Everything around was instantly annihilated in the shattered space, and there was a heart-pounding breath in it. The roar of the beast just now was obviously coming from it. Under this huge movement, Dr. Octopus Otto, who was immersed in his research results, had already found that when he saw the scene in the sky through the broken roof of the abandoned factory, he had fallen into a daze. He was a scientist. Seeing the space shattered and the roar of some beasts in it, his cognition of the world was shocked. He stood there for a while and didn't react for a long time. A faint sense of crisis came over Johnny's skin, and he couldn't help but get goosebumps. In the black hole, he felt a powerful threat and was hostile to him. Give it to me. Quickly. Open it. A roar sounded. At first, the sound was still far away, but when the voice was about to fall, the sound was almost in front of the black hole. Tear. A huge sharp claw with flames rising stretched out from the black hole and directly grabbed the space hole of the black hole. With great effort, the black hole was torn like a piece of paper, and it expanded several times in an instant. The high temperature on the giant claw had reached an unimaginable degree and spread out from the space black hole. The first to bear the brunt was the abandoned factory where Otto studied the artificial sun. Even if the factory was made of steel, It could not withstand such a terrifying high temperature. The steel roof became transparent, and the hard metal melted. Large pieces of soil and rocks were constantly cracked and fell down, hitting the ground, making bursts of explosions. Boom! As a main steel was melted, the abandoned factory collapsed and was exposed to the sky that had undergone tremendous changes. The blazing flames reflected everything around it. The space black hole that suddenly appeared was terrifying. With a boom, Dr. Octopus's four mechanical arms danced wildly and rushed out of the half-collapsed abandoned factory, with shock and anger in his eyes. Chapter 113. The Flame World Army. The black hole expanded, and Johnny's pupils shrank slightly. Through the hole, he saw a strange beast in the black hole. According to Westerners' eyes, this is a giant fire dragon, but in Johnny's eyes, it is just some kind of ferocious lizard magnified countless times, with pale fangs, huge sharp claws on the limbs, and a short and thick tail, and the whole body is covered with blazing flames. Through the black hole, the powerful dragon power of this flaming dragon descended, making Dr. Otto, an ordinary person, limp all over and almost unable to stand. The gap in biological levels brought him unparalleled pressure. "Come here!" Johnny reacted quickly and shouted at Dr. Otto. The power of space spread out like a tentacle, surrounding Dr. Otto's limp body and suddenly pulling him behind him. The fire dragon brought Johnny a faint sense of crisis. Once a battle broke out, it would be quite intense. In order to prevent his target, Dr. Octopus, from being affected by the war, Johnny planned to let him leave first, until he was suddenly pulled behind Johnny by the space tentacles. The dragon's might was completely offset by Johnny's aura, and he was exhausted. Dr. Otto, with his mouth wide open, finally reacted. He looked at the strange fire dragon that came through the space and the creature sitting on the fire dragon, and was shocked. "Thank you for saving me." The octopus claws danced, and Dr. Otto's eyes showed a bit of gratitude. Although he was blackened by the octopus claws on his body, he did not completely lose himself. He thanked Johnny and slowly stood up. For his research results, he was ready to fight. In response, Johnny sneered. The fire dragon was huge and the dragon's might was very terrifying. Dr. Otto was just holding on. The strong high temperature on the fire dragon alone was not something Dr. Otto's body could withstand. Although he had several powerful mechanical arms, it was probably difficult to match. Such a battle is not something you can participate in. Hurry up and leave. Johnny's tone was calm, but with unquestionable majesty, which made Dr. Otto stunned for a moment and a little at a loss. He was not a fool. He knew that he was really going to die when facing the giant dragon in the sky. However, Dr. Otto was unwilling to give up his research results. When a person dies, everything is gone. When a person is alive, everything can be restarted. As long as you follow me, you can have as much tritium as you want. Seeing that Dr. Octopus was still struggling foolishly, Johnny's voice rang out again. At this time, the space black hole roared, and the black hole in the sky had expanded to its limit. The extremely terrifying flame breath came from the other end of the black hole. The temperature in the surrounding space was rising rapidly, and the surrounding temperature was soaring rapidly. "Who are you?" In an emergency, Dr. Octopus could only ask one question. "Johnny, chairman of Morgan Biotechnology." Johnny's words made Otto stand still. He finally understood why the other party had such great courage and dared to say that he would give him tritium as a meal. "I'll take you away. Don't walk around. I'll see you after I've settled things here." Seeing Dr. Otto was no problem, Johnny casually swiped at the space in front of him and directly broke through the space. With a thought, he had already controlled the space tentacles to throw Otto in. Johnny controlled the spatial positioning. As expected, the location where Dr. Octopus appeared was in his base. Natasha and others who stayed at the base naturally knew how to greet him. The body of the fire dragon was huge. After tearing open the crack in the space, it slowly appeared in front of Johnny. Its bloodthirsty eyes stared at Johnny, which made Johnny feel a little pressure. He concentrated and was ready to fight at any time. The blazing flames burned. A figure swooped down from the fire dragon and rushed directly into the abandoned factory that had become a ruin with chaotic energy fluctuations. In Johnny's perception, the energy in the abandoned factory was constantly absorbed, This absorption speed was probably difficult to achieve even if Johnny used all his absorption and transformation capabilities. For this unknown existence that was obviously from a foreign land, Johnny felt that the energy was being rapidly devoured, and he was in no mood to take action. Before Johnny could take the initiative to stop the unknown creature from devouring the artificial sun, the fire dragon in the sky roared and launched an attack. The thick dragon tail rolled back and turned into a pillar of fire, which smashed down towards Johnny's position. Even the space was trembling faintly, unable to withstand this unparalleled power. Johnny's pupils contracted, and he felt the terrible power of the fire dragon. A gleam of brilliance flashed in his eyes, and a huge fighting spirit rose in his body. He hadn't met an opponent who could make him fight happily for a long time. Boom! The violent energy and impact were wanton, plowing the surrounding soil and rocks into a mess. Johnny's body shook, and he just relied on his unparalleled physique and the fire dragon's giant tail to hit him hard. Although there was some vibration, there was not much substantial damage. With a grin, Johnny's body disappeared in an instant, and he punched out again. Bang! The giant fire dragon didn't take Johnny, a tiny creature, seriously at first. It wanted to crush him with a full-strength attack, but it encountered a strong resistance. While it was in doubt, an unparalleled rebound came and directly acted on its body. The fire dragon knew very well how powerful its dragon tail was. After Johnny took a hit, he actually attacked back, which was completely beyond its expectation. The unparalleled strange force directly hit the giant fire dragon's tail, making it scream in pain. Its body was thrown rapidly and crashed into a hill. The earth and rocks flew and terrible flames ran wild. What is this? Johnny watched the giant fire dragon hit the hill heavily. The blazing flames were so strong that they melted the surrounding rocks into flowing magma. The fire dragon slowly stood up, shook his head angrily and roared to the sky. A bit of caution appeared on his face, and he waved to the fire dragon that was shaking its head. The fire dragon was very upset that it missed the target and was attacked by the opponent. When it saw Johnny's provocative action, it was completely furious. A deafening dragon roar resounded throughout most of New York. As the fire dragon roared, countless crazy roars sounded in the space black hole in the sky that had not yet closed. Amid the dense flapping of wings, dense flame creatures had penetrated the dark space channel and hovered in the air with a hiss. Seeing these flame creatures rushing out, Johnny frowned slightly. He had guessed the situation on the other side of the space channel, which was the flame world. 9 realms overlap. The timeline is wrong. Johnny's eyes were a little confused, and he muttered to himself, although the earth and the flame world are connected, there is also a barrier. Only when the 9 realms overlap once every 5,000 years can it be possible to connect the two different worlds. But now, the timeline is obviously not right. When Johnny was wondering, the whole of New York was in an uproar. The angry roar of the fire dragon made the terrible pressure spread to most of New York. Many people saw the dragon and the fire creature that covered half of the sky from afar and fell into fear. Chapter 114, Fear from Fire. When Dr. Octopus created the second artificial sun, it attracted a lot of attention. Such a huge energy fluctuation, the value far exceeded the limit of everyone's imagination. However, before everyone could figure out what happened, the terrifying space fluctuation came. After quantifying these energy fluctuations, many people thought that there was a problem with the computer. General, this is the picture captured by the satellite. The safety of the Earth is threatened. Oh my God, what is that? No, we must report it to His Excellency the President. Let him decide. In SHIELD, there was also a blurry satellite picture transmitted. The one-eyed black man was watching coldly, frowning, and his heart was a little throbbing. Such humanoid creatures and fire dragons should have existed in legends or myths, and now they really appeared. They are definitely foreign visitors. Through quantitative data analysis, such existence is difficult to fight. The reactions of all parties who saw everything were different, but they were all very nervous, paying attention to the development of the situation, and ready to dispatch special forces at any time. At this time, New York was once again in panic and chaos. Everyone was running on the streets, which were blocked by traffic. Many people now only regretted that their parents had not given them a few more legs. so that they could not run faster when facing disasters. The energy fluctuations of the artificial sun, coupled with the extremely huge space black hole and the flame creatures in the sky, the development of the situation soon became completely out of control. Not only the United States, but also all countries with satellites received warnings, just because this terrifying energy fluctuation was too intense. The reactions of various countries were also different, but many countries neighboring the United States had already sent inquiries to the United States through diplomatic channels. The White House Presidential Palace. The President of the United States looked at the satellite images of the flame creatures constantly rushing out of the dark space channel, and his heart was already half cold. He knew with his butt that these strange creatures with fire all over their bodies were definitely not the natives of the Earth. When it came to foreign visitors, he felt powerless even as the President of the United States. "That's right, Johnny. Hurry up and contact Mr. Johnny, the chairman of Morgan Biotech and the permanent director of the United Nations Mutant Issues, and ask him to help resolve the crisis. In addition, make full preparations. The military will send the Air Force and the Army with the best equipment. The primary goal is to block the black hole in the sky." After thinking of Johnny, the President of the United States gained some confidence, gradually calmed down, and began to issue emergency orders. Yes, the guard in charge of the communication left impatiently and passed on the President's emergency order. "President, many countries have sent inquiries, all about this incident. The President's order had just been passed down here, and inquiries from various countries were placed in front of the President. If it was only one or two countries, the President of the United States would have the confidence to ignore it directly, but this inquiry came from countries all over the world, so he had to pay attention to it, forward them the real-time satellite images of the incident and let them see it for themselves. The President of the United States was in a state of panic. He was so angry that he didn't know if he could calm the situation down. Countries came to join in the fun. In anger, the President of the United States directly issued an order. A moment later, the satellite real-time image in front of the U.S. President also appeared in front of the heads of state. Seeing the flaming dragon and the sky full of flaming creatures that only appeared in legends, the heads of state of the world were in great shock, especially the horrible black hole in the sky, where a large number of flaming creatures kept flying out, which made everyone feel terrified. "Mr. President, what's going on? These creatures are definitely not life that originally existed on Earth. How do I know? This is obviously something from another world. I sent the image to you, hoping that everyone can think of a reasonable solution in the face of external crises. Johnny, where is Mr. Johnny? Let him take action. He will definitely solve it." After a brief communication discussion, the shocked heads of state all thought of Johnny. Just when everyone mentioned Johnny, a figure standing in the air appeared in the satellite real-time image, facing the huge flaming dragon, looking at the flaming creatures that kept pouring out of the space channel. Johnny's brows were also slightly frowned. He was 100% sure to deal with a fire dragon, but who knows how many of these flaming creatures that kept pouring out. He had seen in the movies that Thor was chased by a terrifying number of fire creatures and could only run away. Johnny was not interested in slowly fighting with these low-level brainless creatures transformed by fire energy. With his eyes slightly focused, a strong spatial fluctuation rose from Johnny's body. In order to prevent a large number of fire creatures from continuing to pour out, Johnny decided to deal with this huge space channel first. At this time, the space gem was not in Johnny's hand, and he could only mobilize his own space power. As the spatial energy fluctuations on Johnny's body became more and more intense, the roaring fire dragon obviously noticed Johnny's intention, roared, and rushed towards Johnny. However, when the fire dragon noticed it, it was too late. Johnny slowly raised his palm, aimed at the huge dark space channel, and slashed it suddenly. Condensing the majestic space power, Johnny's swipe directly penetrated a distance of hundreds of meters and shot into the dark space channel. Although this space channel was huge, Johnny needed a lot of power to close it. However, Johnny had no intention of closing it from the beginning. He only needed to use the same spatial force to influence the space channel to become disordered, so that the transmission would naturally be difficult to continue. When this group of spatial energy shot into the space portal, It exploded with Johnny's intention, becoming a raging spatial turbulence, constantly impacting and affecting the surrounding channel barriers that were not very solid. Under the impact of the spatial turbulence, the entire huge space channel became extremely unstable under the chain effect, and a large amount of spatial turbulence was generated out of thin air, sweeping around. A large number of flame creatures that were still staying in the space channel had no resistance at all under this terrible spatial turbulence. With a hissing sound, they were directly torn into pieces by space. That's Mr. Johnny's move. Look, there seems to be a problem in the black hole. There is no such terrible flame monster coming out. At this moment, the heads of state who were monitoring the real-time images through satellites all saw Johnny's move. Seeing that the space channel was disordered and the flame creature's way out was blocked, everyone was extremely excited, and their confidence in Johnny increased greatly. Chapter 115, Angry Out of Shame. The heads of state who had been watching the satellite live images closely could all see Johnny blocking the space channel. Many of them were relieved and excited. Although the space channel only appeared in New York and not in their country, the people present were not fools. The vicious appearance of these fire creatures showed that they were definitely not peaceful and friendly foreign friends. At this time, the space channel was already full of chaotic space turbulence, and as time passed, the space channel became more and more unstable. Johnny's eyes flickered, staring at the shaking space channel. In his perception, this space channel might not last much longer. Sure enough, after just a few breaths, the space channel began to show a trend of collapse, and a destructive energy wave spread out from the black hole. Boom! A violent explosion occurred in the next moment. The extremely violent space energy broke out in full force, surging wildly in all directions, almost destroying everything. In the moment before the space explosion, Johnny moved his body and used Space Shuttle to fly back to a place far away from the space channel. Being good at the power of space, he knew very well how terrible the explosion caused by the violent destruction of such a huge space channel would be. Before the raging space battle spread, Johnny heard an extremely angry roar, which erupted from the ruins of the factory where Dr. Octopus made the artificial sun. Boom! The terrible storm spread faster than Johnny flew back, and in the blink of an eye it had covered the entire area, constantly destroying everything in the area. Johnny was on the edge of the storm, facing the oncoming storm. He had a translucent energy defense shield on his body to protect his body. Such a chaotic space was not a crisis for Johnny. He could control the energy at will, build a defense barrier, and protect himself. The more the energy storm raged, the more energy Johnny could control. At the moment the space storm appeared, the communication satellites of various countries had all lost their function. Under such a terrible storm, except for the huge energy flow, no other images could be captured. Looking at the battlefield on the screen where only the terrifying energy impact was dissipating, the leaders of various countries fell into silence. Can Sir Johnny resist such a storm? After a long while, someone spoke. Probably not, but in this way, all the monsters will be crushed by the terrible energy. At least this time, we can survive the crisis safely. Another head of state said what he thought in his heart. Johnny's strength was deeply rooted in the hearts of the people, but deep in their hearts, they did not think that he could resist the terrible storm. However, facts are often not changed by people's personal will. Boom! The raging space storm did not last long. When the power weakened, a terrifying flaming giant sword burst out with divine power and chopped out from the space, tearing the entire space like a rag in an instant. The figure burning with huge flames took a step forward and stepped heavily on the ground. The dull resounding sound was very far away, and the blazing flames almost illuminated this desolate and uninhabited land. This is a fire giant as tall as a mountain, with flames rising on his body. Compared with the fire giant, the fire dragon hovering and whimpering in the sky is like a pet of the fire giant, which is simply incomparable. The size of the flame dragon was already quite terrifying, and it was not comparable to any creature known to the human world. The giant that appeared now killed the flame dragon in seconds, leaving everyone with only shock and horror. Even the heads of state who had held great hopes for Johnny before were somewhat desperate. The absolute difference in size made it difficult for Johnny to compete no matter how strong he was. After the space storm was torn apart by the sword, it quickly dissipated, and the sky returned to calm. However, the flame creatures that had occupied most of the sky just now, whose number could not be clearly identified, had all been torn apart in this terrible space disaster, and turned into flame energy again, dissipating between heaven and earth. At the highest point in the sky, the flame dragon had many fine scars on its body, and it was continuing to fly. There was still a look of fear in its huge dragon eyes. Its defense was far superior to other flame creatures. When it instinctively sensed the crisis, it kept rising to high altitudes, just pushed by the space storm, and did not face the impact head-on, so it survived with minor injuries. Seeing the flame giant searcher appear on the ground, the fear in the eyes of the flame dragon quickly dissipated, and with an excited roar, it swooped down from the air. "My name is Searcher, the Flame King of the Flame World. Tiny ants, are you ready to surrender?" The flame giant was blazing with flames all over his body, and he spoke in a deep voice, and the air shook like thunder. As he spoke, strong flames spewed out from the moving lips of the flame giant, causing the surrounding space to be distorted by the burning. In front of the huge searcher, Johnny waved his hand to dispel the energy defense barrier around his body. There was not much emotion on his face. Looking at Searcher, his eyes showed a bit more strong interest. Searcher, the Flame King. When Johnny heard this name, he was sure that this was the existence in the Thor plot, who held a giant flaming sword, was 10,000 feet tall, could directly fight against the goddess of death Hela, and finally blew up the god's domain. At this time, seeing that Johnny was not destroyed by the energy shock, it was difficult for the heads of state to show any relief on their faces, because Johnny was about to face a huge humanoid monster that could launch a space storm with one sword. "Searcher, why don't you stay in the flame world and come to Earth? Do you think the God realm doesn't know what you did?" Hearing Searcher's words, Johnny snorted coldly and threatened. Johnny, who was familiar with the plot, knew that Searcher was almost beaten by Odin. Hearing Johnny's words, Searcher's face changed, and a trace of deep fear flashed in his eyes. "How do you know the God realm?" Then Searcher reacted and snorted coldly, "A small ant, what can the God realm know? Do they dare to attack the great Searcher?" "Great? Back then, you were beaten by the God realm and retreated to the flame world. Even the eternal fire is still in Odin's treasure collection room. Do you still have shame?" Johnny looked at Searcher's performance, laughed in his heart, and spoke disdainfully. As he spoke, a huge pressure rose from Johnny. The fire dragon just now couldn't make Johnny really move his hands and feet, but now that Searcher had swallowed the artificial sun, he was able to bring more pressure to Johnny. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 116, God Strike. Being stabbed by Johnny's words, Surtur was furious and roared to the sky. Although he didn't know how Johnny knew these secrets, he couldn't stand Johnny's underestimation. With a move of his hand, the flaming sword burst into terrible energy fluctuations. The shocking flames instantly rose dozens of meters. A red energy blade shot directly at Johnny. With one sword, the space shattered. The huge flaming blade was surrounded by tiny space cracks, which made Johnny's pupils shrink. The energy blade was so vast that it seemed to be able to cut through the earth, just because the sword was too huge. The space where Johnny stood was completely covered by Surtur's terrifying sword. He had no way to dodge it, and Johnny didn't want to dodge it. The energy barrier that had just dispersed around Johnny's body instantly condensed again, turning into a nearly tangible bright protective shield. Facing the sword, Johnny didn't dare to be careless and had already raised his defense to the limit. "Oh my God, what is that?" The giant swung a sword. "Is this a blow from God?" The heads of state who saw this scene through the real-time video were horrified. How could people survive? If it was a small town, it would probably be annihilated by such a sword. Boom! The seemingly slow huge flame blade was very fast, but in a blink of an eye it had already crushed the huge light shield formed by Johnny. The moment the two came into contact, the light was overflowing, and the powerful energy fluctuations spread out, like an atomic bomb explosion, directly covering the surrounding low hills. The river watered near the broken ruins burst into the sky, turning into countless water columns, and then vaporized by the blazing high temperature, turning into thick white fog. Under the barrier of this spreading white steam, everyone could only see vaguely, with the point where the light shield and the flame blade collided as the center. The energy was rampant, everything was burning and annihilated, and the soil and rocks were melting rapidly, becoming flowing blazing magma. Johnny was at the center of the explosion and felt it most clearly. The power of Searcher's attack was a bit stronger than Johnny expected. Under the explosion, the energy barrier he built did not completely resist the power of this attack. Johnny could only use his absorption and transformation ability to devour the remaining energy while flying back a lot. Facing Searcher, Johnny's eyes were burning. What he needed was such a powerful opponent who could make him attack with full force. The energy of the light blade was quickly devoured by Johnny, and the heat was fading quickly. The harsh sound of the light blade rubbing against the space made people's scalps numb, but a trace of haze passed through Searcher's heart. He could clearly sense that his angry attack not only did not kill the tiny ant in front of him, but was also being consumed quickly. Searcher's shocking sword made everyone feel short of breath even through the screen, and there was an illusion that they were about to be destroyed. Now the white steam was boiling, and everyone could only open their eyes as wide as possible to capture the ending they wanted to see in the picture on the screen. Look, the flame blade is shrinking rapidly. It has shrunk by half and is still shrinking rapidly. In the blink of an eye, the towering flame blade on the screen began to shrink and disappeared in an instant, while the gold color that was fiercely fighting against the flame blade continued to shine. Searcher, is this all your strength? In Searcher's somewhat fearful eyes, Johnny's plain voice rang out clearly. Although it was not loud, it made Searcher feel humiliated. This was a blatant contempt. Roar! The furious Searcher roared. He was actually despised by the ant in his eyes. What do you mean? Let you also feel my power. Johnny's heart was also full of fighting spirit, and he was not afraid of Searcher. Flame is not Searcher's specialty, but Johnny can do it too. The next moment, the blazing flame soared into the sky and burned on Johnny's body, dyeing Johnny's whole body completely golden. The surrounding soil and rocks that were about to melt were directly vaporized under the burning of the golden flame. Burning blade! Johnny shouted, and a huge golden flame blade was formed in the blink of an eye. After Johnny injected a huge amount of energy, the blade became extremely huge, and it was several times more powerful than Searcher's angry attack just now. It happened in a flash, and the blade formed by the golden flame had already drawn an arc, slashing towards Searcher with majestic momentum and murderous intent. Looking at the golden flame flashing on the blade, even Searcher was stunned, and then the flames on his body suddenly shrank, feeling a strong sense of oppression and crisis. Looking at this golden flame attack, Searcher was a little shocked. This was very similar to the flame blade he had just used, but the energy contained in it and the intensity of the flames were far greater than his own attack. Searcher couldn't believe it anyway. Why could a small human launch such an attack? Could his body withstand it? As the King of Fire, he has ruled the world of fire for countless years. He never thought that one day he would feel such a strong sense of crisis when facing a fire attack from a human like an ant. Ooh! Searcher roared as the flames on his body were suppressed. He looked at the rapidly approaching golden blade of light, and the giant sword in his hand rotated and raised it above his head. His momentum burst out, and all his strength was no longer reserved. He faced the golden blade of light and chopped it down with all his strength. Squeak! Boom! The golden blade of light collided with the giant sword of fire in Searcher's hand, and both exploded instantly. For a moment, the sky shook and the earth shook, as if a major earthquake had occurred. Johnny condensed a huge amount of fire power, and with the sword he had just absorbed from Searcher, the power of this burning blade reached its extreme. The blazing golden flames burned fiercely, and when they passed through the space was faintly trembling, and a subtle black appeared. These hair-thin blacks were almost invisible to the naked eye, but they were real cracks in the space. The blade of burning slashed at the flaming sword in Searcher's hand. At that moment, The golden and bright yellow flames shone brightly, 1,000 times brighter than the sunlight. The heads of state who had been staring at the screen nervously could only see a white patch of white. The citizens deep in New York City felt that the sun had set above their heads, and they could not open their eyes because of the terrible light that erupted from the suburbs. Then, a shocking explosion sounded, and even the ground felt like it was sinking. The degree of the roar was beyond the range that humans could bear. Many people were directly stunned by the explosion. Those who were still conscious only felt a roar in their ears and a feeling of dizziness. However, Searcher was one of the rulers of the 9 realms after all, and he finally withstood the terrifying blow. Chapter 117, Crushing Searcher. Huff, huff. The aftermath slowly faded away, and Searcher's heavy breathing was clearly audible. The giant sword in his hand was inserted horizontally and deeply into the ground to support his body. Johnny's attack just now shocked him so much that he almost used all his strength. The fire dragon accompanying Searcher had already felt a strong crisis of death under Johnny's attack just now. When Searcher collided with the golden flame blade, it rose again and flew to the safe sky in time. It was just a little unstable due to the hurricane, but there was no substantial damage. However, there was also a human-like flash of fear and horror in the dragon's eyes. "You are not human, are you a god of Asgard?" Searcher's surprised voice sounded, staring at Johnny, whose golden light was slowly converging on the ground. With a very solemn tone, Johnny could know a lot of secrets and had terrifying abilities. In his opinion, he must be a person from the realm of gods. With a cold smile, Johnny's eyes slowly moved from the flaming giant sword in Searcher's hand to the 2 curved horns on Searcher's head. These 2 things have great origins. The flaming long sword in Searcher's hand is a rare flame artifact, known as the Twilight Sword, which has the terrible power to create Ragnarok. The 2 huge curved horns on Searcher's head are actually his crown, which is also the source of power, but they look weird and are also jokingly called 2 big eyebrows by Thor. "You don't need to care who I am, but since you have come to the earth today and provoked me, you don't have to leave." Energy condensed, supporting Johnny's body and slowly floating. As soon as the voice fell, Johnny's body was like a cannonball, bombarding Searcher. "Flames don't work for you, then change another one." Johnny's voice fell, and the extreme cold condensed into countless huge ice ridges. As Johnny sprinted, it also turned into a terrible attack and bombarded Searcher. Although the attack power of each of these ice spikes is not strong, each of them is filled with extreme coldness, and the number is extremely large. Johnny will not consume much energy to absorb the energy of the universe and condense countless ice spikes. So at this time, Johnny directly transformed into the blue fire Gatling. He did not need to store much power at all. A large number of huge blue ice spikes condensed at will and bombarded Searcher. Searcher's body was as huge as a mountain range, stretching across the land. Johnny almost did not need to aim, and all the blue ice spikes had already landed in front of Searcher. The huge blue ice spikes were indeed not huge in front of Searcher, who was as tall as a mountain. However, feeling the terrifying energy fluctuations in the dense blue ice spikes, Searcher had no choice but to roar and go all out. All the burning flames on the surface of his body shrank and gathered, turning into a flame armor that looked like a substance. He waved his sword and slashed at the dense blue light group. Boom 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 boom. The sky was full of ice blue debris from the explosion. The collision of extreme heat and extreme cold caused an inexplicable reaction, causing the entire sky to shake. After a while, all the explosions slowly subsided. Johnny looked relieved. The feeling of this full-force explosion was quite refreshing. For a moment, he did not specifically calculate how many blue ice spikes he had launched. However, Searcher, the fire giant who was as big as a mountain, was not so relieved. At this time, the flame armor formed on Searcher's body was already tattered, and there was a faint frost melting in some places. Searcher's body was covered with terrible scars. The blood burning with flames dripped down, melting into pits on the ground, and bursts of green smoke arose. "Stop, stop now." Seeing the light floating on Johnny's body again and countless ice ridges condensing, Searcher quickly shouted, "I give up. As the King of Fire, I promise that I will not come to Earth again. Let me leave." Searcher spoke in a panic, making Johnny stop his actions. Covered with light mist, He was majestic and stared at Searcher playfully. Seeing Johnny stop attacking, Searcher's eyes flashed with a hint of viciousness, secretly mobilizing all the power in his body. The eternal flame was taken away by the god's domain, which had greatly reduced his strength and made it difficult to recover to the peak. Now facing the fire that appeared on the earth, and consuming a huge amount of energy to shuttle and airborne, everything that happened here must not escape the eyes of Heimdall, the god of dawn of the god's domain. Once he fails again, the god's domain may send the god of war to kill him completely. Go to hell. A warning suddenly emerged in Johnny's heart, making the hair on his body stand up unconsciously. Suddenly, the two sharp horns on Searcher's head burst into dazzling light. This was the source of his power. Searcher was so crazy that he was willing to use up the terrible power he had accumulated for countless years. He wanted to launch the strongest attack to kill Johnny and then leave quickly. Johnny's bombardment just now made Searcher feel humiliated like never before. The energy he consumed to resist had exceeded the energy he had obtained by devouring the artificial sun on Earth this time. Searcher also lost his mind and fell into a violent madness. He didn't care that before Searcher launched the attack, he didn't see the indifference and disdain in Johnny's eyes. Johnny was able to crush Searcher, who had devoured the artificial sun. Now that he was weak, would he make Johnny afraid? Imprison. Before Searcher's ultimate attack could be released, Johnny's calm voice resounded throughout the space. As a result, all the spatial fluctuations in the space where Searcher was located were completely still. The burning of flames, the flow of wind, and the apparition of energy were all frozen like a scroll. Also still was Searcher's huge body and the disbelief in his eyes. After the space was confined, Johnny felt a little tired. Searcher sensed the confinement of space and tried his best to struggle and break through the shackles of space. Why? How can you control the power of space? Searcher's mental power roared wildly, which was clearly sensed by Johnny. Why not? Your power is not as strong as that of a house cat. After the space was confined, Johnny slowly raised his head, smiled coldly in Searcher's horrified eyes, and mocked him unceremoniously. After being mercilessly mocked by Johnny, Searcher seemed to have thought of something, and his mental power roared, full of unwillingness and resentment. Damn it, if I hadn't lost the eternal flame and hadn't been unable to use the power of the sacred artifact, the Twilight Sword, a being like you would be like an ant in front of me. Chapter 118 The Flame King's Terror. Johnny didn't bother to pay attention to Searcher's unwilling roar. The next moment, a terrifying icy force burst out, surging directly from Johnny's palm, and then extended to Searcher's body. Searcher was quickly covered with a thick layer of ice starting from his arms due to the spread of this terrifying force. However, just when the icy force spread to the giant sword in Searcher's hand, the light on the flaming sword suddenly became stronger, and a powerful energy burst out, instantly dissipating the icy force spreading on the sword. Feeling the annihilation of the released icy force, Johnny let out a light exclamation, thinking of the artifact Twilight Sword that Searcher had just mentioned, and he suddenly became interested in this giant sword. Johnny's mind moved, and he waved his other hand casually, and an ice blade condensed by the extreme icy force emerged and shot towards Searcher's wrist holding the sword. Ah! Amid the screams of Searcher's mental power, the extremely cold ice blade slashed past and directly cut off Searcher's arm. A large amount of flesh and blood like magma was clearly visible. The giant sword that was originally in Searcher's hand also fell into Johnny's hands. The artifact Twilight Sword. Searcher, it seems that you are too useless and wasted this artifact in vain. The giant sword is very large, but Johnny can hold it with his strong strength, but it is a little incompatible with his body shape, and it looks a bit strange. After holding the giant sword, Johnny immediately felt the power of this artifact. The blazing flame energy and the destructive power that shattered everything all showed the power of the Twilight Sword. However, this giant sword in Johnny's hands could not be controlled at will, but there was constant arguing. Obviously, without the correct method, it is difficult to exert the superpower of the artifact. Ah, how dare you hurt me! I will kill you. Give me back the Twilight Sword, you lowly ant. After Searcher lost an arm, he roared crazily. The ice covering his other intact arm began to crack. He had begun to fight desperately, but Searcher had not thought that even though he held the artifact, he was no match for Johnny. let alone now. Not only was the artifact taken away by Johnny, but he also lost an arm. Searcher struggled desperately, but Johnny didn't see much of a ripple. Johnny slowly raised his hand, fused the cosmic energy and the power of extreme cold, and blasted towards Searcher's remaining arm. Compared with Searcher, Johnny and Searcher had a huge difference in size. Searcher's arms were like towering pillars, and Johnny's punches seemed so insignificant compared to these huge arms. But when the seemingly ordinary punch was thrown, unparalleled energy condensed and formed a fist composed of pure energy, which, with a terrible energy impact, hit Searcher's remaining arm. The energy fist hit Searcher's frozen arm, and a terrible energy impact suddenly erupted. The air vibrated and twisted, and the powerful energy aftermath formed a violent explosion. In the huge explosion, there was the sound of Searcher's frozen arm exploding. Under Searcher's crazy mental roar, his other arm finally exploded completely and fell off his shoulder. After the huge pieces of flesh and blood separated from his body, they completely turned into flame energy and dissipated in the air. This was also the result of Johnny not wanting to kill Searcher immediately and showing mercy. Otherwise, Searcher's body would be like his exploded arm, completely turned into minced meat and bone residue on the ground. Damn human, I will kill you. Ragnarok is coming. At that time, I will transform into the Lord of Fire and destroy Asgard. After destroying Asgard, the next one will be Midgard. All humans will turn into ashes in front of the great Lord of Fire, and you will also kneel at my feet and be turned into charcoal by me. Searcher, who lost both arms, was covered in molten blood. His face was hideous and terrifying, and he screamed in pain and roared wildly. However, Johnny's 2 attacks had already caused him severe damage. After consuming too much power, Searcher could no longer maintain his huge body. Even under the space confinement, his body shrank and became much smaller in the blink of an eye. As Searcher's body shrank, his breath was constantly weakening, and his struggle became weaker and weaker. Johnny's space confinement also became much easier. Under the shrinking of the confined space, the space occupied by the shrunken Searcher was completely wrapped. Listening to Searcher's screams and threats, Johnny's eyes turned cold and his momentum rose. Johnny knew that the Midgard Searcher was talking about was also called the Atrium, which referred to the earth. As Johnny's violent aura grew, Searcher felt the pressure around his body surge, and his eyes were filled with fear. Johnny snorted coldly, and the energy of the universe quickly condensed into a big hand, which slapped down towards Searcher. The hand was much larger than Searcher's shrunken body. Searcher was unable to resist and fell to the ground, lying in front of Johnny without any suspense. The solid rock ground could not resist the force of Searcher's smash, and it exploded directly. With Searcher's body as the center, the ground cracked into spiderweb-like cracks. No matter how unwilling Searcher was, no matter how frantically he struggled, under this terrifying force, let alone getting up, it was difficult for him to even move. It's much quieter now. Searcher, if you answer my questions honestly, maybe I'll make things easier for you. I'm very interested in artifacts like the Twilight Sword. Tell me about its origins and how to control it. Looking at Searcher, who was completely pressed to the ground, with a weak breath and a lot of blood flowing from his broken arms, Johnny asked coldly without any mercy, "Let me go. I'm going to kill you. Lowly human. Dirty ant." Johnny was already familiar with the control of gravity. This level of gravity just made Searcher extremely painful, but he could still speak. However, what Searcher said was not what Johnny wanted to hear. "You want to get my Twilight Sword? Dream on. Ants are ants, and they will never master the power of dragons." Searcher was particularly stubborn in response to Johnny's threats. Even in such a difficult situation, he still kept chattering and did not intend to reveal any useful information. Chapter 119. The Flame Visitors are destroyed. Under Searcher's abuse, Johnny's brows furrowed more and more, and his murderous intent roused. HMPH. With a cold snort, the pressure of the giant hand increased again. Searcher's eyes bulged and his mouth opened suddenly, but he couldn't say a word. "When I gave you a chance, you didn't want to cherish it. Do you really think I have such good patience?" Johnny's disdainful eyes swept over Searcher and finally fell on the horn-shaped crown on Searcher's head. Grabbing Searcher's crown, Johnny controlled the giant hand and pulled it hard, and the crown was peeled off from Searcher's head. The moment Johnny took Searcher's crown, Searcher's already waning momentum fell again. Searcher watched Johnny take away his crown. His eyes were bloodshot, but he couldn't make any movements, even couldn't open his mouth. The moment the crown was taken off, the horror in Searcher's eyes could no longer be concealed. Searcher, the king of the flame world, is now lying at my feet, and you did not cherish the opportunity I gave you. Johnny spoke calmly, and every word frightened Searcher. Searcher, since you are so stubborn, there is no need to continue living. Johnny's voice fell, and his palm slowly clenched into a fist, and all the great and fierce power was condensed on his fist, forming a circle of energy that was almost condensed into substance. At this moment, since he could not get any useful information from Searcher, Johnny also lost his patience and was not prepared to continue to entangle with Searcher. As for the secrets of the magical Twilight Sword and some secrets in the flame world, Johnny believed that even without relying on Searcher, he could slowly figure it out. Feeling the great power condensed in Johnny's fist, Searcher's eyes full of fear and hatred showed a trace of despair. He knew that no matter what, there was no way to escape from Johnny today. Johnny ignored the change in Searcher's eyes. Destruction. As Johnny's fist smashed down, Searcher's huge body also began to decompose under this fist that contained powerful force. It began to disappear little by little from the place where the fist touched, turning into red light spots, slowly dissipating, and finally completely annihilated and disappeared on the spot. Human, one day, I will make you pay the price. When Searcher's body disappeared, an unwilling roar was transmitted through the spiritual power, and finally disappeared completely. A dead duck is stubborn. Johnny was dismissive of Searcher's threat and sneered. However, Searcher's body directly turned into stars of fiery red light and dissipated, which made Johnny a little unhappy. You know, this was the former Flame King. If he was killed and given to the undead ghost to devour, even if he didn't have good abilities, he could get a lot of devouring points. However, Searcher died so easily that Johnny felt a little weird. If the Flame King was really that easy to kill, would Odin, who was iron-blooded and murderous back then, leave this disaster behind? In Johnny's perception, Searcher's huge body had clearly disappeared completely under his punch. In this space, all of Searcher's breath and spirit had disappeared completely. Could it be that, thinking of this, Johnny's eyes fell on the huge curved crown in his hand, and soon he thought of something. In the plot of the movie, the weak Searcher was completely killed by Thor, the god of thunder. The crown on his head was placed in the underground treasure house of Asgard, the realm of the gods, as it is now. However, in order to fight against Hela, the god of death, Loki was forced to place the crown in the eternal fire. Searcher was resurrected again and destroyed the entire Asgard. I understand. No wonder Searcher dared to speak so arrogantly. Johnny finally figured it out. Although Searcher had been destroyed by himself, he was not completely dead. As long as the crown absorbed the power of the eternal fire, Searcher would be resurrected again. This guy is really difficult to deal with. He dared to threaten me before he died. But do you think you really have a chance? Johnny snorted coldly and then put the crown into his storage space. Not to mention whether Searcher can touch the eternal fire and revive. Even if he can be resurrected, according to the development of the plot, it will be decades later. With Johnny's powerful speed, after decades, Johnny may not take Searcher in his complete state seriously. Holding the crown representing the Lord of the Flame World in his hand, Johnny's mental power sensed that there was a certain connection between him and the crown. However, just when Johnny wanted to probe his mental power into it and observe it, he encountered strong resistance. In this crown, there was a familiar mental power that formed a powerful barrier to block Johnny's mental power. Johnny was very familiar with this mental power, which was Searcher's. It seems that Johnny's previous guess was correct. Searcher was indeed not dead. The mental imprint and soul should be dormant in this crown, waiting for an opportunity to be reborn. Since he couldn't investigate, Johnny lost interest and put the crown away. Then, Johnny's eyes fell on the artifact in his hand, the Twilight Sword. When Searcher's body shrank, the giant sword also shrank a lot. However, even after shrinking, it was still too big for Johnny to use. What Johnny didn't know was that Searcher, in his weak state, didn't show the power of the Twilight Sword at all. The material of this artifact was taken from a rare and precious special material in the world of fire, and it was forged in the eternal flame. The combination of the material and the eternal flame gave rise to the Twilight Sword. In order to fully exert the true power of the Twilight Sword, in addition to mastering the correct method of use, the power of the eternal fire is also needed. This is also the key to Searcher, who lost the eternal fire, being unable to exert the power of the Twilight Sword. After trying to communicate with the artifact with mental power for a long time, Johnny helplessly found that his method didn't work at all, and the artifact didn't react at all. It still doesn't work. Without the right method, it's too difficult to control the artifact. Johnny sighed secretly and had to put away the Twilight Sword. For the time being, he could only keep it as a collection and wait for the right opportunity to slowly study it. After dealing with Searcher, things here are almost over, but Johnny will not forget that there is a terrified fire dragon high in the sky, trying to escape. Searcher's body was not swallowed by the ghost, but Johnny will not let the fire dragon go. The result is naturally self-evident. The terrified fire dragon was beaten, half crippled by Johnny, and brought back to his base. Johnny planned to leave the fire dragon for everyone to study first, and then give it to the undead ghost to enjoy slowly. After all, waste should be used reasonably. Chapter 120. I'll make a bet with you. After Johnny dealt with the Flame King and the Flame Dragon, this alien invasion incident that almost subverted everyone's cognition came to an end. However, the huge earthquake caused by it was obviously just beginning. Mr. Johnny has saved the world again. The tense body of the U.S. president slowly relaxed and leaned back on the chair. Unconsciously, his back was already covered with cold sweat. The heads of state sitting in front of the electronic screens were in the same situation as the U.S. president. After a moment of silence, everyone thought of a problem. Since the aliens have found a way to come to Earth, there may be a second or third time. If it weren't for Johnny, they would not be able to resist this powerful alien army. Everyone, I have a proposal to set up a United Nations External Affairs Bureau and ask Mr. Johnny to be in charge. In this way, at least the security of each country will be guaranteed to a certain extent. Finally, a leader of a country spoke up and expressed the general idea in everyone's mind. I agree. Everyone has seen the strength of Sir Johnny. I'm afraid there is no one else on Earth who can compare with him. However, if we want Sir Johnny to agree, the Earth is our common home. Sir Johnny also lives on the Earth. As long as we can give Sir Johnny conditions that satisfy him, I believe he will agree. Our country agrees. Then what conditions do we need to give? Everyone who had recovered from the fear of the Flame Lord expressed their opinions one after another. Taking advantage of this incident, a secret meeting was held. As for the final decision of the meeting, it was the highest level of secrets. No one except the heads of state knew it for the time being. However, after this meeting, some changes occurred in the top level of each country. However, Johnny did not pay too much attention to all this. After leaving the destroyed New York suburbs, he went directly back to the base. This huge base, when it was originally designed, reserved a large area of space as a future backup area. Now it happened to be used as a warehouse by Johnny. The dying flame dragon was directly thrown into it, and the powerful mutants in the club carefully guarded it. When Samuel and others saw the huge body of the fire dragon, they were all excited. The fire dragon, a creature that only appears in myths and legends, is undoubtedly worth going crazy for researchers like Samuel. Dr. Samuel, this thing is handed over to you. After extracting enough test materials, I will come to take over. Johnny saw Samuel's excitement and said with a smile, it's time to see the company's future energy expert. After taking care of the follow-up matters of the dragon, Johnny did not forget Dr. Octopus Otto, who was teleported to the base by him. Natasha, where is Dr. Octopus? Johnny, in a good mood, asked Natasha. Chairman, it has been arranged. You can see him now, but according to our test, his body has been affected by several mechanical octopus claws, which has affected his personality to a certain extent, and his emotions are not very stable. Natasha smiled slightly. She didn't expect Johnny to bring Dr. Octopus back in this way. No problem. It doesn't matter if he's emotionally stable or not, or if he's good or not. What I need is his research on energy. Take me to see him." Johnny laughed, seeming to be very unconcerned. Soon, Johnny saw Dr. Octopus, whose face was uncertain. "It's you. You actually dealt with that dragon?" Dr. Octopus was surprised to see Johnny appear in front of him safely. Before he was teleported to the base by Johnny, he only saw Searcher's dragon, and didn't see the subsequent battle. In his subconscious, the fire dragon was completely not a creature that should exist in reality. If he saw Searcher, I'm afraid even his worldview would be impacted. That's about right. The fire dragon is now lying in the area east of the base. Johnny smiled indifferently. A fire dragon was really nothing to brag about. However, Johnny's indifferent tone made Dr. Octopus a little difficult to accept. "Dr. Otto, let's not waste any more time. The reason I saved you is because I saw your achievements in the field of energy science. If you are willing, you can stay in the base and participate in an energy project that will allow you to study for a lifetime." Johnny did not have the idea of slowly recruiting Dr. Octopus, and he spoke directly to the point. Johnny's words made Dr. Octopus fall into deep thought. He already knew Johnny's identity and had also seen the tip of the iceberg of Johnny's powerful strength. Naturally, he knew that facing Johnny, his tiny fighting power was simply a joke. "What if I don't want to?" After thinking for a moment, Dr. Octopus did not respond immediately, but asked cautiously, "Don't want to? If you don't want to, I can only send you away. You should have heard of SHIELD. There is a good prison over there called the Cube. It seems that they have recently built another one called Mansion. They should let you choose one of the two for my sake." Johnny laughed and said something that made Dr. Octopus tremble all over. Dr. Octopus has devoted his entire life to science. It would be better to kill him if he spends the rest of his life in prison. "Mr. Johnny, I don't know what energy research project you are talking about, but the tritium element mutation experiment I am researching, once successful, can at least delay the progress of human energy consumption by 2 centuries. Dr. Otto, have you heard of sustainable energy?" Dr. Octopus was still thinking about his tritium element research and was interrupted by Johnny when he was still thinking about it. In Johnny's opinion, the tritium element mutation artificial sun that Dr. Octopus created is indeed a good thing, but compared with the energy research of the cosmic cube, it is a piece of shit. Sustainable energy? Mr. Johnny, are you kidding me? In the field of energy science, I can say with certainty that there is absolutely no such thing as sustainable energy. Hearing Johnny mention sustainable energy, Dr. Octopus said with a look of disbelief, obviously thinking that Johnny was making fun of him. Johnny smiled slightly, with a bit of mystery on his face. "Dr. Otto, how about this? Let's make a bet. If I can give you sustainable energy, from now on, you will follow me, and I will give you all the research resources you need. If there is no sustainable energy, I will let you go free, and I will also give you the research resources you need. You can get as much tritium as you want. Moreover, I will guarantee your personal safety. No one, whether Spider-Man or the authorities, can touch you. How about it?" Johnny spoke slowly, and proposed a bet that Dr. Octopus could not refuse no matter what. "Okay." Dr. Octopus nodded solemnly, his eyes determined, and Johnny's smile also widened, thinking to himself, another lost lamb has boarded his pirate ship. No, battleship. Chapter 121, The World External Security Council is established. Chairman, the U.S. government has sent an invitation. All countries in the world are preparing to hold a joint meeting and invite you to participate. Johnny had just dealt with Dr. Octopus and asked him to accept the research of the Cosmic Cube. The U.S. government had already contacted Johnny through Morgan Biotechnology and asked him to attend a global conference. Johnny was a little surprised to get this news, and he couldn't guess what the other party wanted to do for a while. When, a week later, in Geneva, Switzerland, Medusa's magnetic voice came from the communicator. Although Johnny didn't know the purpose of the joint meeting held by various countries to let him participate, he didn't mind meeting with the heads of state. For a week, Johnny was thinking about the crown and the artifact Twilight Sword left by the Fire King Searcher. However, Johnny couldn't control either the crown or the artifact for the time being, so he had to give up in the end. After a simple packing, He went to Geneva to participate in this global joint meeting. This time, all the heads of state in the world were present. When they saw Johnny's arrival, everyone had a warm smile on their faces. Many people looked at Johnny with flashing eyes, which made Johnny notice a little strange. Mr. Johnny, the huge hole that appeared in New York, and the terrifying monster behind the hole, if it weren't for you, I'm afraid that now the whole world would be filled with endless creatures. This time, all of our countries must be grateful to you. The President of the United States is the leader that Johnny is most familiar with, and he spoke first as a spokesman. Everyone, there is no need to be polite, just say whatever you want to say. Seeing the strange look in everyone's eyes, Johnny was in no mood to play dumb with everyone, so he spoke directly. Johnny's direct words made many people pause. According to the routine, at such a global joint meeting, everyone would at least be polite to each other for a long time before slowly getting to the point. They were not used to someone as direct as Johnny. It's like this, Mr. Johnny, we all see your great strength, and all our countries and people are grateful for your actions. This meeting originated from a proposal to make you the director of the World External Security Council, responsible for fighting against external threats. Of course, when fighting against external threats, you also control the world's huge resources and rights. A head of state did not hide anything. For someone like Johnny, too much courtesy is hypocritical and will only cause the other party to be disgusted. Oh, this speech was somewhat unexpected to Johnny. He originally thought that the purpose of convening this global summit was to ask him about Searcher. Unexpectedly, these people did not mention this matter at all, but instead gave him a certain high hat and prepared to push him out as a global thug. Mr. Johnny, it is like this. Before this meeting, our countries had a simple communication. In recent years, special events have occurred frequently on the Earth. Many special events have completely exceeded the level that a country can handle. That is why all countries decided to establish the Global External Security Council to specifically resist external threats and certain special events. You are the best person in charge. The Global External Security Council has the rights of global peers and is unanimously recognized by any country in the world. It also has absolute privileges. The council has the right to deal with any event that threatens public safety. Seeing that Johnny's face was indifferent and he fell into deep thought, it seemed that he was not very interested in the proposals of the crowd. Some people could not sit still and kept lobbying Johnny. It was hard to imagine that the heads of nearly 200 countries in the world gathered together just to ask Johnny to become the director of the Global External Security Council, and his anxious tone was completely like a posture of forcing a good woman to do prostitution. It seems that they really spent a lot of money to find me as a thug. Johnny listened to the lobbying of the crowd, scanned the faces of the crowd, and secretly thought about the gains and losses in his heart. I'm just a businessman. After a slight pause, Johnny spoke again, which made many people stagnate and quickly react. Johnny's words are worth pondering. What is a businessman? Businessmen value profit. Johnny's meaning is obviously that they can negotiate, but the conditions must satisfy him. Needless to say, a special person soon handed Johnny a document. It is called a document, but its thickness is probably almost the same as a dictionary. Mr. Johnny, this is the policy of the Global External Security Council in various countries. In order to ensure that the Global External Security Council has enough power to protect the world from external forces, all countries in the world unanimously agree to allocate huge resources to the Council to ensure that the Council can continue to grow stronger. Moreover, the Council can establish branches in all countries in the world and have law enforcement powers. You can take a look at this document first. If there is anything you are not satisfied with, just raise it and all countries can negotiate. The person in charge of drafting this document said to Johnny with a respectful smile, "It seems that these old foxes have planned it long ago. What the hell is such a thick document for me to read?" Johnny thought to himself. However, it must be said that these conditions did impress Johnny, at least in this way. It will also have a considerable driving force for his huge plan to leave the Earth in the future. As for the threats from external forces that various countries are worried about, in Johnny's eyes, they are major events one after another, all of which are swallowing points. In order to become stronger, he will take action to deal with them even without the active requests of various countries. The heads of state could see that Johnny had no interest in the political affairs of other countries. Otherwise, with such a strong power, no one could stop him as long as he wanted. That's it. I'm too lazy to read this document. I'll let my subordinates contact each country for specific matters. As for resources, we'll talk about it when we need them. Johnny's words made everyone's faces relax. The main issue of the meeting was resolved. After the tedious discussion, Johnny did not show too much interest. Everyone could see Johnny's impatience. It didn't last too long and ended the meeting hastily. After Johnny returned, he notified all the senior executives of Morgan Biotechnology and Hellfire Club to gather together. Everyone, things have changed a bit. Take a look at this. With a wave of his hand, Johnny had taken out the thick document as thick as a dictionary and placed it in front of everyone. The bright words Global External Security Council appeared in front of everyone. Chapter 122 3 Major Development Directions. After Johnny's brief description, everyone was in shock. Chairman, it seems that from now on, we should call you Director Johnny. Medusa didn't care. There was not much difference between managing a company and managing the Global External Security Council. It doesn't matter what it's called. What I'm thinking about now is how to establish this bureau. There is no need to worry about resources. Countries around the world will lean towards it. The key is people. The people who just received this news obviously didn't think as deeply as Johnny. Everyone is not stupid. The huge manpower required to establish such a global force is definitely huge. Far more than a company or the Hellfire Club. Chairman, no. Director, do you have any ideas? Medusa smiled slightly. For many years, she has been managing the huge Morgan Biotechnology, but in such a big decision, she still follows Johnny's arrangement. The Security Council has been established and has the privilege to recruit any talent from around the world. My considerations are very simple, with three major directions. First, combat personnel. The Hellfire Club has been developing for so many years, and a large number of mutants under its command can serve as the backbone. But this is not enough. Once branches are established in various countries, they can only be recruited. If that doesn't work, they can be selected from the military of various countries. However, this process needs to be strictly controlled. I don't want spies or traitors to appear inside. Johnny simply sorted out his thoughts and spoke. Director, let me be responsible for testing loyalty. There are many mutants in the Hellfire Club who are good at psychic abilities. It's perfect for doing this. Emma agreed immediately. She did have a group of mutants who were good at psychic abilities. Although the number was not large, it was not a big problem to just test loyalty through psychic abilities. Okay. Second, the intelligence department. After years of development, the intelligence system of the Hellfire Club has matured and can be directly embedded in the Security Council. Natasha is still in charge of this area. However, this way, she will have considerable authority and access to the intelligence systems of various countries to a certain extent, and there will be many matters to deal with. Johnny nodded slightly and continued. Natasha smiled slightly, appearing very confident. As a top agent, she was very good at handling such issues. Third, the scientific research part. This part needs a big change. I am considering establishing a main research base and multiple research parts, and assigning different persons in charge for different research projects. As for the general person in charge, since Dr. Samuel is unwilling to take charge, he will leave it alone for the time being. In this area, the original super soldier research, gamma radiation biochemical research and energy research led by Dr. Otto will continue. In addition, aerospace research and weapons research will be added. As for the research candidates, they will be recruited based on the intelligence from Natasha. Speaking of the scientific research department, Johnny's main consideration is still this area. In his opinion, the other two areas are not big problems. However, the establishment and development of the scientific research department will not be effective in a short time. Johnny is not in a hurry and can develop slowly. That's it for now. Do you have anything else to add? After speaking his mind, Johnny asked everyone. Everyone looked at each other and shook their heads. Obviously, They couldn't tell what kind of situation they would encounter without actually implementing it. Then thank you for your hard work during this period. Johnny smiled slightly. As a leader, he only needed to determine the general direction, and the specific implementation was what everyone needed to do. For the next period of time, Johnny stayed in the base, but everyone was almost all busy. The establishment of the Security Council requires huge manpower and material resources. After the resources of various countries are in place, there are not many problems. The huge headquarters base is set up on a huge island in the sea. This is also the decision Johnny made after consideration. The Security Council he is responsible for is a global department. No matter which country the headquarters is placed in, it is inevitable to cause criticism. The best choice is to choose a place that does not belong to any country. After some screening, this huge island in the sea was tracked and determined. After the establishment of the Security Council, the external recruitment work progressed much more smoothly than Johnny had imagined. This was also closely related to Johnny's respected status in everyone's mind. Many outstanding talents desperately wanted to join the Security Council, and it was also this kind of hero worship psychology that was at work. Soon, the newly established Security Council's Scientific Research Department welcomed the first heavyweight scientist. Director, this is Bolivar Trask, the newly recruited scientist of the Security Council. Next to Medusa stood a short middle-aged man. When Johnny saw the man for the first time, he recognized his identity. It was Professor Trask, who was known as the father of the Sentinels. It was this guy who first discovered the X gene when studying the mysterious DNA of humans and became one of the scientists who studied mutants most deeply. In the plot, after he got the blood sample of Mystique, he was even more worried about the fate of ordinary humans, and created the Sentinel robot, which almost destroyed mutants all over the world. I wonder if most of the amazing genius scientists in the Marvel world have some flaws. Samuel's big head, Bolivar's short stature. Johnny was a little dissatisfied in his heart, but he still showed a gentle smile on his face, expressing his satisfaction that Bolivar could join the Security Council. Johnny would give enough respect to these talented scientists. Although it was their first meeting, Johnny had a very deep understanding of Bolivar. Bolivar was considered a visionary scientist in the movie. He not only founded his own industrial group, but also had a place in politics and business. However, at this time, Bolivar had to stop his crazy research because of the promulgation of the mutant law. Dr. Bolivar, welcome to join the Security Council. I have heard of your talent for a long time. Johnny's courtesy made Bolivar feel flattered. He smiled and was polite again and again. When he entered the Security Council, he already knew Johnny's identity and also knew some of Johnny's deeds. Doctor, since you have made the right choice, you will be a member of the Security Council in the future. I will not treat you unfairly. The Security Council's Scientific Research Department has a large number of excellent researchers and a large scientific research team, and the resources are countless. You can become the person in charge of a special project. Johnny smiled and said, which made Bolivar's eyes show surprise. The scientific research strength and resources mentioned by Johnny are exactly what any scientific research project urgently needs. It is precisely because of this that when faced with the recruitment of the Security Council, Bolivar agreed without hesitation. Director Johnny, thank you for your appreciation of me. I wonder what kind of project it is? Bolivar's attitude was even more humble after hearing Johnny's words. This is Dr. Samuel. This is Dr. Hank. They are both the backbone of the Security Council's scientific research force. You will work together in the future. As for the project I want to give you, it is to study the human mutant X gene. At Johnny's signal, Medusa handed the report to Bolivar. After reading the contents of the report, Bolivar's body trembled slightly. With just one glance, he was completely attracted by the contents of the report. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 123 Recruiting the Father of Sentinels, Mutants. Humans can indeed mutate through the X gene. My research direction is correct. Bolivar muttered to himself, looking very excited. After he discovered the X gene in human DNA, he made similar conjectures, but due to the limited resources at hand, after the mutant law was promulgated, all mutants were protected, and no mutant would volunteer to stand up and let Bolivar study them, which led to the stagnation of Bolivar's research. But now, Johnny gave him what he wanted most. "How is it, Dr. Bolivar?" Johnny asked with a smile. "Great, Director. I have also done some research on the X gene lurking in human DNA, but this project, in order to make a substantial breakthrough, still needs experimental subjects." Bolivar spoke. "There are many mutants in the Hellfire Club. You can ask for their consent to extract blood samples. But Doctor, there is one thing I need to remind you, they are all my subordinates. Understand?" Johnny agreed to Bolivar's request. "There are many mutants in the Hellfire Club, and the X-Men also have a lot of blood samples that can be studied, which can be provided to Bolivar for research." After some arrangements, Samuel took Bolivar away, and Johnny began to think. Bolivar's ability is unquestionable. If he is provided with enough experimental subjects and research resources, it will not be a problem to thoroughly study the X gene. According to Johnny's idea, after the research on the X gene has made a breakthrough, it can be directly invested in the development stage. As for the use of the X gene, the best choice is the Sentinel robot. In the plot of the movie X-Men, Days of Future Past, the second-generation Sentinel robot developed by Bolivar has been fully mature, and its combat effectiveness is considerable. Strictly speaking, it has far exceeded the capabilities of ordinary mutants. At that time, the Sentinel robot combined the X gene with special materials. It not only has the ability to fly, but also has extremely strong strength and speed, and super strong resistance to blows. It can also copy the abilities of various mutants at will and share them with all Sentinels. Johnny also clearly remembers that in the plot, a large number of Sentinel robots were fighting against mutants, and 2 Sentinels fought against Iceman and Sunspot respectively. After Iceman froze the Sentinel for a while, it suddenly caught fire all over its body, broke the ice and grabbed Iceman. Because the Sentinel over there was attacked by Sunspot, he copied the fire ability and shared it with the Sentinel attacked by Iceman, so the frozen Sentinel could fight back. Similarly, Sunspot was also killed by this ability, which shows how powerful the Sentinel robot is. Not only that, as long as the mutant ability that the Sentinel robot has come into contact with will be copied and preserved, the more mutant abilities it has come into contact with, the more powerful the Sentinel robot will become. At the same time, the Sentinel robot has mastered 2 different ways of attack: physical attack and energy attack. When using physical attack, all parts of the Sentinel robot's body can be twisted and transformed at will to form various weapons and shields, and can be stretched and shortened at will to achieve various incredible attacks. When using energy attack, the Sentinel robot's head can launch a strong energy laser attack, and the energy intensity is so high that it is astonishing. This is why Johnny is so nice to Bolivar. The Security Council has just been established, and what it lacks most is top-notch individual high-end combat power. If the Sentinel robot is well researched, it will just fill this gap. As long as this plan succeeds, the Security Council will become a real behemoth. However, any research takes time and requires a gradual process. If you want to truly develop a Sentinel robot and improve it step by step, you may not achieve much results in a short period of time. The development of the Security Council is in good shape. The main base took less than half a year to be fully built. After an inspection, Johnny was quite satisfied and had prepared a large scientific research team to move in. After everything is on track, everyone will have a summary meeting within a month to report on the situation of each department. Director, Dr. Otto is now studying the critical stage of the energy of the cosmic cube. He asked me to ask for leave for you. Samuel spoke first and said to Johnny, "Well, I know." Johnny didn't care. It was a good thing that the scientific researchers were immersed in their research. Director, the biggest breakthrough the scientific research department has made in the past month is to completely restore, repair and perfect the super soldier serum. We call it the first stage. After talking about Dr. Octopus, Samuel mentioned the research he was in charge of, and seemed a little excited. "It has been perfected? To what extent can it be achieved?" Hearing this news, Johnny raised his eyebrows slightly, which was a pleasant surprise. "In the first stage, it can make the physical fitness reach 10 to 20 times, and the strength, speed and nerve reaction are enhanced to a level close to the human limit. The lifespan will also be extended accordingly, and it has the ability to recover and heal quickly. In addition to certain requirements for the physical fitness of the body, there are no side effects." Samuel spoke confidently, and his words made everyone look surprised. "The first stage of the super soldier serum can achieve such a level? What if we continue to study it?" "Samuel, you did a good job. Since the technology is mature, the first stage can be promoted among the senior management of the Security Council." "By the way, is the super soldier serum useful for mutants?" When Johnny heard that it can strengthen the body and prolong life, he had already considered everyone. These people followed him, and with such a good thing as the super soldier serum, Johnny would naturally give them priority. We still need to connect with Dr. Bolivar. We haven't considered the genetic situation of mutants yet, but it shouldn't be a big problem." Samuel was a little uncertain when he mentioned this. As a scientist, he emphasized rigor. He couldn't make a conclusion before verification. "Let's do this. You connect with Bolivar as soon as possible to ensure that the first phase of the super soldier serum is as effective for ordinary people as mutants. After that, let all of the senior members of the Security Council be strengthened. In addition, members with outstanding performance can also be considered as appropriate. As for the degree, let Medusa and the others check it." Johnny smiled slightly and glanced at the women. The women nodded slightly, and they all understood what Johnny meant. "Director, the intelligence department of the Security Council has been connected to the global intelligence system. Although only part of the intelligence is open to us by various countries, and some special intelligence cannot be shared, but with such authority, our intelligence network has been considered to be all over the world." Natasha spoke and briefly talked about the recent progress of the establishment of the intelligence department. "Well, besides the scientific research department, the intelligence department is the most important. Let's develop it according to this process." Johnny nodded, obviously satisfied. "Director, I have another thing to tell you. It's about Tony Stark, the president of Stark Industries." Natasha nodded, then twisted the communicator ring on her hand, and a series of holographic projections appeared. "The president of Stark Industries suffered a terrorist attack in Afghanistan." Chapter 124 take you to the activity event. "Director, although this matter has little to do with the Security Council, I think you should be a little interested," Natasha said, looking at Johnny's eyes. "You understand me best." "I am indeed interested. Let me guess, have you found out the current whereabouts of our lovely death merchant?" Johnny smiled and asked. "In a mountainous area in Afghanistan. The terrain there is complicated. The search and rescue team sent by the U.S. government can't find him at all. We also sent intelligence personnel with special abilities to determine his location. However, Mr. Tony has not been very happy during this period." Natasha moved her hand casually, and on the holographic projection, all the recent situation of Tony Stark appeared clearly, and it was live broadcast in real time. At this time, Tony Stark was locked up by terrorists and another scientist, Ethan, forcing him to make the Jericho missile. Tony's chest was still wrapped with thick gauze, soaked in blood. In the middle, two wires were connected to the battery, and his movements were somewhat restricted, which looked very strange. This little gadget Hank made, a pinhole camera, remote broadcast, is very concealed. Seeing a hint of surprise on Johnny's face, Natasha explained with a smile, "Hank is really a talent, such a device." Johnny was slightly stunned. The pinhole camera was so clear that he couldn't help but think of some evil pictures in his mind. Tony Stark is the president of Stark Industries and his position is very important. His affairs not only affect the military, but also the government. Even S.H.I.E.L.D. has arranged many top agents to sneak into Afghanistan for search and rescue. However, so far, apart from the terrorists, we are the only ones who know Johnny's whereabouts. Natasha said. "Samuel, is Bronski still so energetic recently?" Johnny nodded slightly and asked Samuel without any context. "Much more obedient than before." Since Johnny asked, Samuel did not hide anything and told the truth. I miss his energetic time now. Natasha, send Tony Stark's exact location to my communicator. I'll take Bronski out for a walk. Johnny smiled and said to Natasha. Johnny's words made everyone understand quickly. The director thinks highly of Tony Stark. Medusa couldn't help but smile. Tony Stark is a talent. You will know it in the future. Johnny smiled, without much explanation, and then teleported away. In the special area of the scientific research department, Johnny saw Bronski, who was resting. Johnny's instant appearance did not arouse Bronski's vigilance. The power of space could make all of Johnny's aura completely hidden, and it was difficult to detect it at all. It's true that you are not as energetic as before, but your aura is much stronger. It seems that you have taken a lot of drugs recently. It was not until the spatial fluctuations on Johnny's body converged that Bronski realized it, stood up instantly, and said to Johnny cautiously, after seeing clearly that the person coming was Johnny. Bronski's eyes showed a bit of fear, and then he became respectful, and his huge body lowered. Master, Bronski said respectfully. Well, Bronski, I came here today to take you out for some exercise. Johnny nodded slightly and said to Bronski. Hearing the word exercise, Bronski's body shook violently, and he trembled suddenly, and the fear in his eyes could no longer be concealed. Master, I am absolutely loyal to you, and you. After the previous activity, Bronski's heart was deeply shadowed, and the mention of activity again made him unable to control himself. Looking at Bronski, who was trembling with fear in front of him, Johnny sighed slightly, and he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. It seems that he may have been a little heavy-handed in the last activity. Don't be nervous, Bronski, I'm not doubting your loyalty. This time, I'm taking you out for some exercise. After the voice fell, Johnny was too lazy to explain too much, and the power of space wrapped himself and Bronski, and the figures of the two disappeared instantly. When he reappeared, Johnny brought Bronski to Afghanistan, where Tony Stark was held hostage by terrorists. Bronski was even more terrified when he saw the surrounding scene change and appeared in an uninhabited mountainous area. Last time it was a desert, this time it was a mountainous area. But after experiencing the last activity, he no longer had any rebelliousness in his heart. Why was that? Bronski, there are a lot of terrorists not far ahead. I'll give you a task. Get rid of all the terrorists and save 2 people. Johnny flicked the ring on his hand, and the images of Tony Stark and Ethan suddenly appeared. Save people? Bronski was slightly stunned by the fear, and for a moment he didn't react. Wasn't Johnny going to use him to make trouble? Yes, save people. This is the purpose of your activity this time. However, if the task is not completed well, I don't mind adding an activity for you. When Johnny spoke, he exuded a slight momentum. Bronski was pleasantly surprised when he heard Johnny's words, and nodded repeatedly to assure. Boom. Before Johnny could continue speaking, there were faint gunshots and explosions from the mountain not far away, which made Johnny slightly stunned. After his perception spread out, Johnny soon found that the mountain area where the terrorists were hiding had a commotion. Many people were holding weapons and rushing towards a cave somewhere. The explosion just now came from the cave. The show is about to begin. Bronski, remember the task I gave you. Go quickly. After noticing the commotion not far away, Johnny had guessed that Tony Stark should have completed his steel armor and was now fighting the terrorists. After receiving Johnny's order, Bronski roared and showed a speed that was completely inconsistent with his huge body. Under the fierce impact, he turned into a phantom and shot towards the mountain area where the explosion came from. In order to complete the task assigned by Johnny and avoid the subsequent activity project, Bronski completely took out 200% of his combat power. In Johnny's perception, in just a dozen seconds, Bronski had already rushed to the area where the terrorists were hiding and launched a crazy slaughter. These terrorists entrenched in Afghanistan are just ordinary people. Although there are many of them and they are well armed, they are completely one-sided in the face of brutal hatred. Johnny withdrew his perception, smiled faintly, and slowly walked towards the fierce battle. Chapter 125 Rescue Tony Stark. Johnny was not very fast. When he reached the area where the terrorists gathered, he could not see a single living person. The entire lowest hilltop was filled with corpses. The strong smell of blood rushed straight to his head. Every corpse lying on the ground was almost incomplete, and there was a trace of fear before death in their eyes. In the cave where Tony Stark was imprisoned, there was an even stronger smell of blood. In the deepest part of the cave, there were still some sounds of fighting, but they were getting smaller and smaller, and finally stopped completely. Johnny stood outside the cave and did not enter. His calm eyes fell on the dark and deep cave entrance, waiting quietly. There was a rhythmic vibration from the ground, as if some huge steel monster was about to walk out. Soon, in front of Johnny, the figure of Abomination Bronski slowly emerged in front of Johnny. Behind Abomination, there were two figures, one large and one small. This large figure was wrapped in black steel armor. There were obvious welding marks on these armors. It looked extremely heavy. When walking, the ground would tremble slightly. The small figure was Ethan, the Swiss scientist who had been helping Tony Stark escape. In the original plot, he should have been killed by terrorists in order to buy time for Tony. But the appearance of Abomination at the critical moment saved his life. All the terrorists who attacked him were brutally slaughtered by Abomination, and their flesh and blood flew everywhere. When Ethan first saw Abomination, he was almost scared to faint, but after Abomination dealt with the terrorists who attacked him, he grabbed him and looked at him for a while, but surprisingly did not attack him. Master Bronski walked to Johnny and saluted respectfully, regardless of the blood dripping from his body. Bronski? You performed well. How was it? Did you enjoy the activities? Do you need to add some extra activities? Johnny nodded slightly and asked with a faint smile. Comfortable, Master. I have released all my extra energy. Bronski trembled and quickly spoke in a flattering tone. Master. Master? Tony's shocked voice in the steel armor was full of disbelief. Tony felt unreal when he saw the monster that had just displayed his might and ferocity respectfully calling Johnny Master. Tony, I remember I reminded you not to travel far recently, but it seems you didn't listen. Looking at the iron-shelled Tony Stark, Johnny laughed slightly and teased. I miss my Jeep a little bit now. With a clang, the iron shell opened, and Tony walked out of it with difficulty. He had many bruises on his body and looked a little embarrassed. Mr. Johnny, thank you very much. I owe you a big favor. Facing Johnny, Tony was not as reserved as the others, and was much more easygoing. Johnny didn't care much about Tony's attitude, but Tony's favor was still very important. No more nonsense. Let's go. Johnny smiled slightly and was about to teleport away with a few people. Wait, Mr. Johnny, I want to destroy the weapons here. These are all from Stark Industries, but I didn't expect it to bring disaster. Tony spoke in a hurry, interrupting the space force that was about to spread from Johnny. Simple, 2 favors. Johnny smiled slightly, and the majestic cosmic energy instantly turned into a towering giant hand, then quickly clenched his fist in the air and smashed it down with a bang. Boom. Along with the evidence on the ground, the area where the terrorists' weapons were all covered with smoke and dust, the space force moved. Johnny ignored the shocked expressions on Tony and Ethan's faces, and teleported away with everyone. After returning to the base, Johnny arranged for his men to treat Tony's wounds simply, and then sent him away. As for the shrapnel in Tony's chest, Johnny did not touch it. Otherwise, if Tony was completely cured, there would be no Iron Man in the future. Johnny didn't pay much attention to what happened afterwards. He usually stayed in the base and paid attention to the development of the scientific research department. Director, the first stage of the super soldier serum is already perfect. It can be used by both ordinary people and mutants. Dr. Bolivar and I have also made adjustments to Vice Chairman Medusa. Her body is not much different from that of an ordinary person, so it can also be strengthened. Not long after, the news that the super soldier serum of the scientific research branch was perfected reached Johnny. Very good. Since there are no problems, we can start the fusion of the super soldier serum. Johnny nodded and gave instructions. Soon, the 3 Medusa girls who had followed Johnny the longest gathered together for the final test in preparation. The 3 of them took a physical fitness test, and the results of the test surprised everyone. Director, their physical fitness has reached the optimal standard. There is absolutely no problem in fusing the super soldier serum. During this period, the serum has been improved several times. Not only has the ability been improved, but the pain caused by the fusion has also been reduced a lot, Zora said excitedly. The three girls were well prepared for the fusion of the super soldier serum, so they started quickly without too much delay. The process of super soldier serum fusion will cause all cells to undergo qualitative changes. There will be some pain in the process. You need to be patient. The three women lay flat on 3 instruments for their different physiques. Many instruments and needles were connected to their bodies. After Samuel and Bolivar explained, they all said they understood. As a blue serum was slowly injected from the needle, the 3 women showed some pain on their faces, but they gritted their teeth and said nothing. The first step is perfect. Their physical fitness has reached the best. There is no rejection reaction. We can start the second stage. Seeing the various data displayed on the screen, Samuel said calmly, the so-called first step is the process after the serum is injected into the body. In this process, the energy in the serum travels through the blood vessels throughout the body and is continuously absorbed by the body. The second step requires huge energy stimulation to allow the cells that have undergone drastic changes to continuously absorb the serum energy, so as to achieve the purpose of transformation. As Samuel pressed the button in his hand, the energy separated from the special means and optimized fell directly on the 2 women. The intensity of the energy also began to increase, stimulating the serum to transform the 3 women's bodies while allowing the 3 women's bodies to absorb some of the energy. This process was obviously more painful than the first stage. Through the screen, Johnny could see sweat dripping down the faces of the 3 women, but they were all patient and kept silent from beginning to end. Johnny's perception was much sharper than that of others. During this process, the aura of the 3 women began to surge to varying degrees. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.